Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 5 of What If the Transformers crash landed in Code Geass. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Knights for Justice and Freedom. A bullet train rode on the tracks over a nearby ghetto, the occupants of one the train cars being members of the Ashford Student Council, Millie, Shirley, Nina, and even the amnesiac Rye, all of whom wore casual clothing. Millie wore a long light blue dress that stretched to her ankles, Shirley wore a green tank top with brown shorts and sandals, her hair tied back in a ponytail, Nina wore a beige jacket with heavy brown pants and a hat. I've never left the Tokyo settlement before, this is my very first time. Shirley said excitedly as she looked out the window. What about you, Rye? You tell me, I don't know. Rye said in a bit of a joking tone referring to his amnesia, but despite the joke, Shirley looked regrettable at that. Oh, right, I'm sorry. Forget, don't worry, Rye assured. I'm still a little bit surprised Lelouch said it would be alright with you coming with us. Shirley said honestly. Why? I mean it's not like he's my dad or anything. Rye said. Well, considering how overprotective Lulu is for Nunnally, it's naturally a bit of a surprise that he's letting anyone who lives under the same roof as him go anywhere without him. Millie explained. Of course he's protective of his sister. She's blind and in a wheelchair, for Pete's sake. Rye said as if it were obvious. Relax, I was joking. Millie said before turning to Shirley. Speaking of Lelouch, I bet you wish he was here with us, don't you, Shirley? The tease caused Shirley to blush while Rye had an indifferent look. I think I'm starting to understand why you're called the she-devil. Rye said while Millie just had a mischievous grin. The train however entered a dark tunnel, causing Nina to give a frightened shriek, slightly startling both Rye and Shirley. Millie kneeled down in front of her and held her hand gently as the lights came on in the train car. Nina, it's all right, Millie said in a calm and soothing tone. There are lots of tourists at Lake Kawaguchi so security's fine. Don't be afraid, it's not the ghettos. Yes, but we'll be with you the whole time. We won't leave your side for a second, Millie assured. Nina smiled. Thanks. The train exited the tunnel and entered a valley where one could clearly see Mount Fuji. Shirley looked in amazement and wonder, while Rye, who was also amazed at the sights before him, had something else on his mind. He saw the metallic exterior around Mount Fuji and his face grimaced a bit, that along with what Millie said in regards to the ghettos. Lelouch and Nunnally had both told him not only of their former status as royals, but of what Japan was like before the invasion. Though he was amazed at the sight of Mount Fuji, he was also disgusted at the man-made structures built around it, almost as if it were a symbol of Britannia's dominance and oppression. He already had a strong dislike for the Britannian Empire, though he cared for his friends in the Ashford Council, despite being Britannians themselves, as they were only civilians and good people, but that did not deter his distaste for the Empire and its beliefs on social Darwinism. He really wanted to do something about it, but what could he do? He was only one person. It's not like he actually knew people actively fighting Britannia. The Ark, the vehicle modes of Bumblebee, Bulkhead, Cliffjumper, Ironhide, and RC all drove through several groundbridge portals from the groundbridge station all the way up to the bridge of the submerged Autobot ship. Once the vehicles came to a halt, the doors opened to reveal the combined members of the Kuzuki Resistance Cell and the Yamato Alliance, Colin herself having ridden on RC. They all stumbled for a bit as the Autobots transformed into robot mode. Aw man, I think I'm gonna be sick. Tamaki grumbled as he held his stomach as many other people had similar feelings around him. Don't worry, you'll get used to it, Cliffjumper said. Shake it off everyone, and welcome aboard. That was the declaration of Zero as everyone shook off their nausea to look up to see Zero himself standing on a built-in human-sized just below the main window screen with Optimus and Ratchet standing at each of his sides in front of him. Once their amnesia was shaken off, all the rebels looked around at their new surroundings in amazement. Holy cow. Whoa, look at this place. It's huge. Ogie looked towards Optimus. What is this place? This is the Ark, Optimus began to explain. It once served as a mass Autobot transport during an exodus from our home planet. But as of this moment, it will serve as our headquarters. We're inside an alien spaceship. Colin questioned, still not over her amazement. Ratchet gave a scoff. Police. I wouldn't describe it simply as that. Who's the bot with the attitude? Tamaki asked with crossed arms, not liking Ratchet's tone of voice. That would be Ratchet, Bulkhead introduced. He's not too big a hands-on fighter, but he's our team's medic, and stinking good scientist. Their medic, huh? One rebel wondered. Yes, and I am his assistant and caretaker of the Ark. Fix-It rolled up to many of the rebels, who looked at him in surprise. My name is Fix-It. Nice to meet you, meet you. Whoa, a mini-bot. Another rebel voiced in surprise. Aw, ain't that cute, Tamaki teased. The official term is mini-con, thank you. Fix-It confirmed. And I apologize for any mispronunciations in my speech, for my body was damaged when the Ark crashed here on Earth, so I might be a bit GL-titchy. Crash landed. Colin questioned. Where exactly are we anyway? The Ark is several miles off the coast of Japan, deep in the Pacific Ocean. RC answered as all the rebels looked out the main window to see the oceanic setting before them, complete with a multitude of wish. Whoa, we're underwater. That's really cool. Zero, Optimus, are you sure about all this? Ogi asked. Letting us into your place like this? Of course. We're comrades after all. Zero assured. Indeed, if we are to stand a chance against our enemies, then the best possible option is cooperation. Optimus explained as well. You sure this place is safe? One rebel from the Yamato Alliance asked. Yeah, don't worry about it. Cliffjumper said. This place is completely invisible to both Britannia and the cons, no one's gonna find us all the way down here. And it's best you guys don't stray too far from the bridge. Ironhide explained. The Ark is huge even by our standards, it's easy to get lost here. Not to mention some of the areas around this place are damaged with flooded compartments too. RC added. But other than that, our casa is your casa. Bulkhead welcomed. We'll make more accommodations as time passes. Zero said. But in the meantime, we've established a small area over there, serving something equivalent to a meeting and recreational area. He pointed over to the far right side where a staircase built into the wall lead up to a large platform that could hold over 24 people with plenty of tables, several chairs and couches, even a few fridges and a flat-screen television. The rebels all climbed up the staircase and looked at the area they'd probably be spending most of their time at. Colin and another rebel opened some of the fridges to find some bottled water already there. They'd probably need more food, but this was the best that can be made on such short notice. Optimus, with all due respect, the rebels are in much danger here as anywhere. Ratchet voiced his protest. They have no protective shell. If they get underfoot they will go, squish. Then for the time being, Ratchet, we must watch where we step. Optimus told him. As Optimus said Ratchet, cooperation is necessary. Zero added. Every army needs a base they can all reconvene at, and the Ark is perfect. It's large enough to hold the entire population of Japan and still have room to spare. The ground bridge portals will make it easy for all of us to transport in and out of dangerous locations, and we're so deep underwater that we're completely invisible to our enemies' eyes. Ratchet understood the logic in Lelouch's statement, and agreed with Optimus that if they are to have any hope of standing against the combined forces of the Decepticons and Britannia, they need an army of their own. As much as he hated to admit it, they really needed the help of the humans right now. One rebel turned on the television with a remote as an emergency news report came on. How are things looking on the scene? This got the attention of many of the rebels, and even Bumblebee and Cliffjumper. What's going on? The red Autobot asked as they watched. I'm here in front of the Lake Kawaguchi Center Hotel. A female reporter began in front of said hotel. The hotel jackers have identified themselves as the Japan Liberation Front. That caught Ironhide's attention. Fix-It, put that on the main screen. Fix-It nodded as he pressed a few commands on a small mini-con console made for him as the news broadcast was now being projected on the main screen on the Ark's bridge, allowing the Autobots and Zero to see it. Members of the Sakuradite allocation meeting, most notably Chairman James, were taken hostage as well as several tourists and hotel employees. The screen showed footage taken by the hotel jackers to show all the hostages surrounded by armed men all stored in a meat locker with hands above their heads. This footage was taken by the perpetrators. In it you can clearly see Chairman James and even some students. Zero looked in surprise, as did Colin as they recognized the faces of Shirley, Rai, Millie, and Nina among the console. From the student council, Colin thought, Even Bumblebee looked in surprise as he recognized them from his time watching over Lelouch at Ashford. JLF headquarters. Toto and several of his comrades watched the broadcast as well and were not pleased at all. The leader of the group claims to be Lieutenant Colonel Kusakabe of the new debunked Japanese military. Toto slammed his fist on the ground. That imbecile. On the scene, Princess Cornelia's personal transport, along with several soldiers, and even Suzaku and the Special Corps had gathered around the hotel as Diethard Reed's news unit continued to broadcast. Sakuradite, an essential component in the manufacture of high-temperature superconductors, is a vital strategic resource that directly affects world security. Area 11 is the largest producer of this material, providing 70% of the world's total supply. Here at the yearly national meeting of Sakuradite producers, it will be determined how this resource will be disturbed among the world's nations. The Nemesis, Megatron, Starscream, and Soundwave all stood on the bridge of the Decepticon warship as the report was being broadcasted on their main screen. It's no exaggeration to say that the outcome determines the balance of global power between Britannia and other countries. It is believed that the terrorists are using world interests in the annual gathering to their advantage by carrying out this violent hotel takeover. Interesting. Megatron mused. And why is this of importance to us, Starscream? Well, you see, Master, I'm actually the one who leaked the information to the Japan Liberation Front in the first place. Starscream revealed with a smug grin. You what? Megatron was not amused that Starscream went behind his back to actually provide information to a human resistance organization. Despite that, however, Starscream kept up his confident expression. Because, now it is known to the public that an actual terrorist organization has taken innocent civilians hostage, for even if they are Britannian, I am highly doubtful Optimus and even that meddlesome Zero will ignore such a vile act. Starscream began to explain. So, while Cornelia and her forces are so focused on the situation in front of them, all we have to do is wait, watch, and listen. For when the Autobots do come to rescue the civilians, my own personal attack squad will strike. I already have Thundercracker and Skywarp on standby with the unit, ready to attack whenever I give the command. Megatron actually found it a rather brilliant strategy. Optimus always put the needs of the weak ahead of his own, making him almost predictable. It would be out of character for him if he'd ignore a situation like this. Which in turn will destroy the Autobots in one fell swoop. Megatron said. I must admit, Starscream, a very interesting move, which is so rare for you. Starscream tried his best not to scowl at the subtle insult Megatron gave him. However, that is provided your unit actually succeeds in wiping out our enemy. I assure you, Lord Megatron, now that we have seen Optimus in combat firsthand, with both Thundercracker and Skywarp leading the charge, the Autobots will fall. Starscream stated. I'm Kusakabe of the Japan Liberation Front. He exclaimed to his hostages gathered together. This stand we're taking is for the freedom of Japan and our countrymen. Even though you are not soldiers, you are still Britannians. You are the ones who rule and oppress us. Sit still and be quiet and you'll be fine. If you don't. Rai glared at him. Despite what this man said, he could tell that he really acted no different from the Britannian royal family, particularly the Emperor. Next to him, Shirley looked down as her eyes shook with fear. Lulu. Rai put a comforting hand on her shoulder, silently telling her that everything will be fine. The Ark, taking civilians hostage. That's a low blow. Bulkhead commented in disgust. Well, they're easily the biggest anti-Britannian force in Japan, and now their pride's hurt. Ogi stated, though his tone indicated he wasn't too happy with the action himself. Probably because we've been doing the most damage to Britannia recently, and we're just a new group to everyone. Ironhide said, though he kept his cool, he did not like this one bit either. But why would they do this, though? Fix-It asked. I mean, wouldn't it be easier if we all worked together? We're all resistance fighters, aren't we? Not every resistance group feels the same way as us. Fix-It. Ogi tried to explain to him. Some of those people are actual terrorists who have tried to hurt innocent people. Britannia just chooses to lop us all in together with them. I really don't know whether to feel happy or sad about this, because they're all gonna end up dead. One rebel stated with little emotion in his voice. RC glanced over to Colin, who said nothing, but her eyes radiated a bit with worry as she actually did come to care about some of her classmates in the student council, despite the fact that they were Britannians themselves. Both Bumblebee and Optimus happened to glance towards Lelouch as his features were hidden behind the mask. He too was worried, those were his friends in there, not to mention Rai. Aside from how they have been unable to help him regain his memory, Nunnally had already grown quite attached to him. If he got hurt, she'd be devastated. Zero felt a buzz in his pocket and took out his phone to see Rivals was calling him. He glanced upwards to Optimus, who nodded to him. Lelouch had walked to the far side of the catwalk he was on. At the far side of the ship's bridge, far away from the hearing of the rebel fighters, is a plate at the bottom of his mask opened to reveal his mouth as he answered the phone and spoke in his natural voice. "Hello, Lelouch. Are you near a TV?" Rivals frantically exclaimed over the other line. Fortunately no one else heard him. "Yeah, I'm seeing it right now. Oh man, those guys got the prez, Shirley, Nina, even Rai. What are we gonna do?" "Rivals, calm down." Lelouch tried to urge him. "Calm down. Our friends have been kidnapped by terrorists. How can I be calm? Panicking is not going to help them," Lelouch said in a strict yet calm tone. "As much as I hate to admit it, there isn't anything we can do. The military is there, so all we can do is have faith and hope everyone will be safe." Rivals seemed to calm down a bit before speaking again. "Okay, you're right. I'm sorry I snapped at you." "Don't worry about it," Lelouch told him. "I gotta go. Talk to you later." Lelouch hung up as his helmet closed and his face was completely riddled with fear and worry. Cornelia's mobile base. All bridges connecting to the hotel, with the exception of the main one, have been destroyed. One officer reported to Princess Cornelia as she sat in her command chair. "Our attempted approaches from the air and water have been unsuccessful. There's only one route left that will allow us to develop a possible hostage rescue plan." The main screen projected a three-dimensional image of the hotel and the environment around it as her officer continued to report. "The main utilities tunnel running directly beneath the convention center hotel. Basically we would go in through this route, destroy the foundation block, and submerge the hotel. Since the tunnel was built to handle supply deliveries, it should be able to accommodate Sutherlands. Even if the enemy has taken precautions, it should be no problem. They've been using substandard weaponry, so we should have no problem evading them." Just behind the mobile base, 3 Sutherlands were loaded down into the massive tunnel by a set of tow cables before they sped into it with the intent on completely destroying their enemies. However, it seems they were actually expected as a pair of JLF soldiers saw them incoming on a radar screen. The soldiers piloted what appeared to be a combined remodel of 4 Glasgows that supported a massive cannon on top. "Enemy detected. As expected, they're moving through the underground tunnel." "Roger that." Reiko, secondary startup. Both quad linkage legs locked. Super electromagnetic shrapnel cannon confirmed. The 3 Sutherlands continued down the tunnel with no resistance whatsoever. One pilot noticed something at the end. "I think these guys have nightmare rifles. Spread out and flank their ranks. Super electromagnetic shrapnel cannon fire." The JLF soldier pulled the trigger, and the massive cannon onboard the unconventional Nightmare Reiko shot a large projectile that broke off and exploded, sending multiple smaller projectiles shooting outward that completely tore apart and destroyed all 3 Sutherlands. Kusakabe and several JLF soldiers saw the result from their occupied room. "One shot. Yes," one soldier exclaimed enthusiastically. "It works. The Reiko was a complete success." Kusakabe had a smug grin. "What do you think of that, Britannian pigs?" Cornelia's mobile base. "Wiped out?" Darlton questioned in surprise. "It looks as though they modified several Glasgows into a linear cannon," one officer reported. "Then there's no way we can break through. What do we do now? If we release the political prisoners as they demand? We cannot show weakness to terrorists," Cornelia exclaimed. Gwiflord walked up to her and whispered. "But Princess Euphemia, she's..." Cornelia's intense look faded into one of concerned frustration. "Yes, I know." Darlton turned to her. "Thus far, it appears that none of them have discovered that fact. If they learn that Princess Euphemia is among the hostages, they'll undoubtedly use her as a bargaining chip. She went there to observe, therefore she is not officially registered along with the other guests." "What about the Decepticons?" one officer asked. "Have we tried contacting them?" One is already on the ground now. Darlton answered. Dreadwing, though at the moment he is currently with Warrant Officer Kururugi and the Special Corps Unit. Well, maybe we can ask him for assistance. The officer suggested. Maybe he could contact the other Decepticons and they. Absolutely not, Cornelia exclaimed. I will not rely on those aliens to solve our problems. We can handle this on our own. Ashford Academy. CC stood over a railing on a rooftop observing a certain schoolgirl, the same one Lelouch used his Geass on a couple of weeks ago, marking the very same mark she was told to do in the same spot. She walked away once it was done with an innocent smile. No, I still don't know where the Autobot base is. CC answered to someone apparently only she could hear. She then rolled her eyes in annoyance. Yes, I understand, I'll do well this time. But why should I look after him though? He's already got bigger hands more capable of that, and I'm not much of a guardian myself. Lloyd sat on a hilltop above the lake as both Suzaku and Cecile stood with him, the aforementioned scientist having thrown a pebble into the lake out of boredom. Can't the Special Corps offer any assistance in the rescue operation? Suzaku asked. I already asked them, but we're an irregular unit and they don't acknowledge our chain of command. Lloyd answered. Besides, he threw another pebble across the lake. It's too risky to entrust the operation to an 11, is that right? Suzaku assumed. Yet I'm sure that you are aware that Princess Cornelia is very discriminating about Britannians and numbers. Lloyd told Suzaku. So the Japanese still aren't being accepted enough into your structure. If that were true, then what point would there be in even having an honorary Britannian system? Cecile questioned. Perhaps to keep the populace in check, as there may very well be those within the Britannian populace who don't share such discriminatory thoughts. These were the words of Dreadwing as he walked up toward the trio of humans, who slightly started at how close they were to him, while Dreadwing himself kept his eyes fixated on the hotel. Personally, I don't see a reason why such discrimination exists. Dreadwing spoke. If you are able to hold your own in battle, then where you come from should be irrelevant, for in the battlefield, all are equal. Both Suzaku and Cecile looked up to Dreadwing in surprise, not just at how large and imposing he was, but the words that he spoke. He looked down at the young man. Suzaku Kururugi, despite hailing from another nation, your skills as a nightmare pilot are superior to most Britannian soldiers. I dare say you even rival Princess Cornelia herself. The Lancelot itself is a very impressive weapon as well. Therefore you would be the most suitable soldier for a crisis like this, yet they refuse to acknowledge you due to your heritage, which is a lack of foresight if you ask me. Suzaku's surprised look hadn't faded at just how much praise Dreadwing had shown him. A smile soon formed on his face. Thank you, it's Dreadwing, right? The aforementioned Decepticon nodded. And, I never did get a chance to thank you for your help, during that mess with the purebloods a while back. I was merely assisting in a situation in which one of my own was acting out of line as well. Dreadwing explained. Pay no mind to it. His attention was however caught as he looked down to see Lloyd looking up at him with stars in his eyes, as though he were a child looking at a brand new toy. Can I help you? Your name is Dreadwing, right? Lloyd began. I have to say, it's really a pleasure to actually stand in the presence of a living machine. So tell me, how do you transform like that? How many transformations do you possess? Where did you come from? Did somebody create you? How strong is your metal skin? What powers you? Have you ever used a wrecking ball for a punching bag? Lloyd stopped his ranting however as Cecile pulled him away by the shoulder, sorry about him. She looked up to Dreadwing apologetically. He's a bit of an overly egotistical science geek. Dreadwing nodded in acknowledgement. It was understandable since Cybertronians were still new to Earth. I may answer your questions at a later date, but for now, I am on a mission. You're here to help with the rescue operation? Suzaku asked. If they ask for my assistance. Dreadwing replied. I am under strict orders to only assist Princess Cornelia if she asks for my aid, and she has yet to do so. Suzaku looked in surprise. Even if she were discriminatory towards the 11s, surely she would see the potential in Dreadwing. If what he's seen of Cybertronians thus far is any indication, Dreadwing alone could potentially disarm the terrorists with little effort. Yet Cornelia didn't allow it. If I might ask you, I have also heard some rumors going about. Lloyd spoke to Dreadwing about how Princess Cornelia went up against the leader of the Autobots and ended up having her nightmare totaled. That is indeed correct, Dreadwing confirmed. Princess Cornelia engaged Optimus Prime in a one-on-one duel and lost. Suzaku and Cecile looked in honest surprise. Princess Cornelia, the goddess of victory, actually lost. Though there was a part of them that seemed to understand, they've seen the Autobots in action firsthand. They've taken out Sutherland's with little effort, and even one Autobot could match the Lancelot in single combat. But to hear Cornelia actually lose, it sounded almost unbelievable. Lloyd however maintained his excited expression. I'm not surprised at all. One Autobot could actually go one par with the Lancelot, and I poured my blood and sweat into that, so I'd expect their leader to easily defeat Cornelia's less advanced nightmare. Still, I wish I could have seen it with my own eyes. It is that defeat however that worries me, Dreadwing said, getting their attention. Princess Cornelia's pride took a major blow after that, having apparently never lost a battle before, hence the title, Goddess of Victory, yet she was not only defeated but her life was also spared. Perhaps that she still feels that pain even now and is not thinking rationally, otherwise she would have used the more effective tools she currently has at her disposal, as opposed to only relying on Britannian soldiers. I worry that she may even forsake logic entirely and choose to attack the facility, destroying the terrorists as well as forsaking the lives of the hostages. Neither Suzaku nor Cecile could believe what Dreadwing just said, even Lloyd seemed surprised at that. Dreadwing just said he was expecting Cornelia to kill the terrorists even if it means killing all the hostages in the protests. Why would she do that? Suzaku exclaimed. Those are Britannian civilians in there. Women and children. Her own people. Why would she throw their own lives away? I agree, it doesn't make sense at all. Cecile agreed. I can understand if her pride was hurt, but to sacrifice all those people. Dreadwing had a somber look. It is not likely, but it is a possibility. You would be surprised how often one values their own pride over the lives of others. The Ark. Lelouch had his own personal quarters built into the Ark, which was on the far left side of the bridge, connecting to the main catwalk just below the main screen window. The room was relatively simple, just a bed and desk with a laptop. He looked at the live news footage over the laptop without his mask. She was only sightseeing. Shirley is still a student. But these criminals act indiscriminately. Savages. I want to know if I want to know if my daughter's alright. She hasn't done anything wrong. Lelouch's own face filled with worry. He was also concerned for not only Shirley's safety, but the rest of his friends among the hostages. The Autobots are strong, I know that, but can we really pull off something like this? We managed to evacuate everyone in Saitama before Cornelia attacked, but no one was watching. Here, the whole world is watching. Not to mention all those resistance fighters we've recruited aren't ready. It's not just the fact we still haven't seen any Decepticons yet, but with Cornelia being there, I know she agreed to Optimus' terms in their duel about not involving civilians, but she could still just sacrifice the hostages anyway. Wait, why hasn't she made a move yet? Is it possible? Lelouch's thoughts were cut off as he heard a knock on his door. He quickly put his mask back on. Come in. Colin walked in. Zero, what will happen to the hostages? Zero closed his laptop. Eventually, there will be no reason to keep those Britannians alive. Colin's face was one of regret. Yeah, I'm sure you're right. That doesn't mean they're going to die, though. Zero said, surprising Colin. Wait, what do you mean? You just said. Her words were interrupted once Fix-It rolled in. I'm sorry to bother you, Zero, but Optimus wants to speak with everyone for a moment. I have a feeling I know what he wants to say. Zero said, smiling slightly underneath his mask. Colin, Fix-It, come with me. He walked out with the red-haired girl and orange mini-con behind him onto the catwalk where Optimus was standing in front of the dozen rebel soldiers gathered together, along with the rest of the Autobots. Zero looked at Optimus as the Autobot leader nodded in confirmation, as if he could read Lelouch's mind and tell what he was thinking, causing Lelouch to smile even more. Optimus Prime then began to speak to everyone present. As you all know, a sect of the Japan Liberation Front has taken over the Lake Kawaguchi Center Hotel and have taken at least 24 Britannian civilians hostage. As of yet, there have been no negations made between them or the Britannian military being led by Cornelia. And we have yet to see any Decepticons on the scene, but that could change at any moment. Ratchet added. There were voices of confirmation among the rebels. However, we will not allow any bloodshed this day. Zero spoke up, getting everyone's attention. This will be our first official mission as a combined unit. We are going to rescue those hostages. Every single rebel looked in surprise as they all spoke up, questioning the words that just came from Zero's mouth. Even a few Autobots looked in surprise, particularly Ironhide and RC, even Fix-It, but all the rest, such as Bumblebee, Bulkhead, and Cliffjumper smirked a bit as they actually expected a mission like this. Rescue them. Colin didn't expect that either. Are you serious? We're going to fight the JLF. Hold on, why the hell are we risking our lives for a bunch of damn Britannians? Tamaki questioned in anger. Yeah, they're all the reason we're here in the first place. Another rebel exclaimed. Wrong. Zero spoke up. The Britannian military is responsible, not those people. That's right. Cliffjumper also said. I get you guys are angry at Britannia, but those are women and kids locked up in there, not armed soldiers. Among several more unsure voices, Optimus spoke up, getting everyone's attention. I can understand why you would all be so reluctant to get involved in this rescue operation. However, as Zero and Cliffjumper have said, it is the Britannian military and the Emperor that are responsible for Japan's current state. The men, women, and children that are among the hostages are only civilians who have nothing to do with Britannia's current status in power. Many may not even have ties to the military. If we condemn them simply for their nationality, then we are no different from the likes of Britannia who have done the same thing. You guys want to work with us, right? Ironhide also spoke up. Well, if you do, you have to follow the same rules as us. Primarily, we will not under any circumstances hurt civilians. We'll fight the military, but unarmed bystanders are off limits, Britannia are not. 'Cause if we do that, then we really are what they say we are, terrorists. This seemed to calm down many of the rebels as they looked to each other. Many even saw the logic in their statements. Pretty much everyone there hated Britannia, but most of them hated the idea of being called a terrorist. Several of them even felt upset at how it was Britannian civilians taken hostage. Even if they wanted to rescue them or not, every person knew that if they were to take a stand against Britannia, and eventually the Decepticons, then they need the Autobots, and if it meant abiding by their rules, then so be it. Ogi then walked up and spoke. Look, I get what you guys are all saying. I'm not exactly a fan of what the JLF are doing right now, but what can we do? I mean, you guys are giant alien robots that can probably take on a whole army of nightmares and win. The rest of us are just two different resistance groups working together and... That is wrong. Zero spoke up, interrupting Ogi. You, me, everyone else here, we are not just a resistance group. Is that clear? Then, what are we? Ogi asked. As of now, we stand with the Autobots. Zero began, not as their subordinates, but as their equals. Even if we hail from different worlds, we are now the same thing they are, knights for justice and freedom. Lake Kawaguchi. Night had fallen and there had been no change to the situation. Kusakabe and his sect of the JLF still had the hostages, while Cornelia had made no move to attack or rescue, not without potentially exposing and/or endangering her younger sister, Euphemia. In the meantime, Dreadwing stood by the Lancelot as Cecile worked with Suzaku on maintenance. Those teenage hostages are friends of yours from school, aren't they? Cecile asked Suzaku. They are still negotiating, so let's not give up hope. I have faith in the system. Suzaku said, getting both Cecile's attention as well as Dreadwing's. I prefer the logic of systems to individualist emotions. Dreadwing looked towards the young soldier with both respect and concern. While he acknowledged Suzaku for trying to see the optimistic side of things, he is also naive in that not everyone follows the same sort of logic, nor do they share the same set of morals. Suzaku however noticed something. Miss Cecile, look. He zoomed in with the Lancelot's camera. Dreadwing also zoomed in with his own optics towards the roof of the hotel to see a pair of JLF soldiers with a hostage. What are they going to do? Cecile asked with worry. Dreadwing's eyes widened as he realized what they were doing. Don't you even, but it was too late. The soldiers pushed the hostage off the roof and everyone could only watch in horror as he plummeted to his death. NNOOOOOOO. Suzaku screamed while Dreadwing only closed his eyes and grimaced. Though a part of him expected something like this, it made it no less pleasing to the eye. The Nemesis. Our demands have gone unanswered. Kusakabe spoke to the Britannian military via private communication line that Soundwave was easily able to hack and bring up to the bridge's main screen. Therefore we will throw one hostage from the roof every 30 minutes until our terms are met. For the sake of the hostages, negotiations better be in good faith. Megatron however looked in amusement, while Starscream chuckled. Well, isn't that cute? Very amusing. Megatron agreed. However, we still have yet to see any sign of Optimus. Fret not, Lord Megatron. Starscream assured. Now that Kusakabe has made it clear that he cares little for the lives of his hostages, it will only hasten Prime's arrival. More than likely, yes. Megatron seemed to agree before looking down at his commander. However Starscream, should this plan of yours fail, there will be serious repercussions. Starscream's smug look vanished as he chuckled nervously. Cornelia's mobile base. This is their warning. Barbarians. Darlton spoke in disgust as he and Cornelia walked down the hall toward their nightmares. For now we could negotiate just to get the women and children out, Guilford tried. Forget it. Cornelia exclaimed. If you give in to their conditions even once, then you are simply legitimizing terrorism. What of Dreadwing then? Darlton asked. He is a Decepticon and, as much as I hate to admit, it would seem that he and the rest of his kind are simply more physically capable than any nightmare we have. There is also the Lancelot. Guilford added. However the pilot is an 11, and besides that, we have not yet secured the safety of Princess Euphemia. Cornelia's face contorted with worry. Euphy. However, an officer ran onto the scene. Viceroy. It's Zero. And the Autobots. All of them. What? Diethard questioned as he turned around to one of his employees. What do you mean Van 3 was stolen by Zero? What the hell was Gibson doing all the while? He said that when he realized what was happening, it was too late. Huh, then where's Van 3 now? We don't know, it just dropped off the grid completely. But it looks like Zero and all the Autobots are actually driving straight towards the military. The Ark. The aforementioned Van 3 that had several news cameras and equipment built onto it was now on the bridge of the Ark with several cables attached to it as Fixit began to work on the inside. Alright, I have managed to connect to all the onboard cameras and I am transmitting the visual and audio frequencies to you now, Ratchet. Fixit typed a few commands on a console inside the van. I have received the frequencies. Ratchet typed a few commands on his own console as the Ark was easily able to adapt the camera's systems into its own. He gave a slight scoff. Human technology, vastly primitive compared to our own. I know it is, but we may have to adapt if we're actually going to work with humans now. Fixit said. This is their world after fall, all. Yes, yes. Ratchet waved his hand, as he knew Fixit was right. I hope you know what you're doing Optimus. Lake Kawaguchi. A convoy comprised of the vehicle modes of Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, RC, Bulkhead, Cliffjumper, and Ironhide all drove down the streets in between two lines of Britannian Sutherlands as a series of lights shined on them. It was also evident that Zero himself was standing on the roof of Optimus Prime, while all his fellow rebels were riding inside the Autobots themselves. Colin and Ogi rode in Optimus, Tamaki and 3 others rode in Bumblebee. Behind them as Cliffjumper, Bulkhead, and Ironhide each had up to 4 or 5 rebels themselves. RC had no one as she drove by herself, pretty clear, as she could not provide any sort of cover due to her vehicle mode. We've confirmed, it's Zero. And most likely the Autobots in disguise. Should we open fire? No, stand down. Darlton ordered over the radio. We'll capture them after they're surrounded. However, no one noticed that inside the vehicle modes of the Autobots, each of the rebels had some form of uniform. All of them wore shiny black jackets with hats and dark purple visors. But what stood out was the emblem on each of their shoulders. It was a red Autobot symbol with a silver blade coming out from the top and bottom, and from the sides was a silver curved line that looked like a bird in mid-flight, the sigil of Geass. This combined symbol would represent the combined rebellion of the Autobots and their human allies. So, this is it, our first real mission. Ogi spoke. I know what the plan is and all, but still, I don't know whether to be excited or terrified right now. Do not worry. Optimus assured. Even if the Britannian military or Decepticons become involved, neither you nor any of our other comrades will be actively fighting. Hey, listen, Optimus, Colin had something to say. I never did get a chance to, thank you for all your help. Just doing what needs to be done, Colin. Optimus told her in a tone that made her feel very comfortable, as though it were a tone a father would speak into calm a daughter. Meanwhile, inside Bumblebee, a few of the rebels were talking along with Tamaki. When they said this was our first mission, stealth wasn't what I had in mind. Well, the bots can put up more of a fight than we can. That's true. Man, I hate sneaking around though. Tamaki grumbled as he punched his left fist into his right palm. I want some action. You'll get some action soon enough, just not right now. Bumblebee spoke with bleeps. I got no idea what you just said. Tamaki stated as Bumblebee could only sigh, if he was actually capable. They really should get translators for everyone for him. He said be patient. RC said through the radio. You're not ready for the heavy hitters, just go with the plan and don't screw it up. Okay, geez, you sound like my mom. Tamaki practically pouted like a child. The Autobot convoy came close towards the bridge connecting to the hotel when Cornelia, Guilford, and Darlton in their respective nightmares blocked off their route. It wasn't long after that the entire convoy was completely surrounded. Lelouch glared underneath his mask. Cornelia, as much as I would love to capture and interrogate you right now, you're more useful to me as you are. If you do what I predict, I may not even need to use my Geass. Cornelia's cockpit opened up as she stood up to address her enemies. Optimus Prime, we meet again. You even brought Zero here as well. Are you and the rest of these wretched aliens with the Japan Liberation Front? Or perhaps you intend to help us? Regardless, our concerns take priority over yours at the moment, and so for the death of my half-brother Clovis, I shall take my revenge right here. She pointed her sword gun right at Zero. Cornelia, which would you choose? Zero spoke up. Clovis, who is dead. Or Euphemia, who's still alive. Cornelia's eyes widened in shock, as she did not expecting that at all. Looks like you were right. Optimus spoke to Lelouch through a communicator built into his mask, in a frequency only the two of them could hear. Lelouch smiled underneath his mask. She hasn't changed in the least, she's always coddled over sweet little Euphy. Which was why she never attacked. So it would seem that Cornelia does have some human emotions underneath her cold exterior. Optimus also wondered if Cornelia ever felt the same with Lelouch and Nunnally before their exile. If that was true, and if she learned they were alive, she could potentially become an ally. But not with all the tension that was present right now. Perhaps another time. It is within our power to save Euphemia. Optimus spoke directly to Cornelia. What do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about. Cornelia tried to deny it. We can and will rescue not only your sister but the other hostages as well. Optimus stated. You have my word as a fellow soldier, that not a single civilian will die this night. What? Zero and the Autobots. Kusakabe sat up from his chair. Yes sir. One JLF soldier confirmed. Word came from the Britannian army. Attention all forces. Let the Autobots pass. I repeat, let them pass. Darlton ordered through the radio as Cornelia and her soldiers cleared the way for the Autobot convoy to drive down the bridge and towards the hotel. But as they did, Cornelia glanced towards both Zero and Optimus with a fierce glare. It was Zero who killed her half-brother, and it was Optimus who humiliated her in a duel and even showed her mercy rather than grant her a warrior's death. As she glanced towards them, certain words that Optimus spoke to her beforehand rang through her head. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. With Britannia's resources, your nation could use them to help those less fortunate than you, not oppress them. But you choose this path, you aren't forced onto it, it's a choice. If you truly wish to be a true leader, Cornelia, then stray from your father's path of destruction and death, and lead Britannia towards peace. Cornelia's fists clenched. It's a choice. You don't know anything, she uttered to herself. There was indeed a small part of her that had reluctance over these actions, something she thought she had buried away forever, but ever since her fight with Optimus, she can't help but think on that, not just her reluctance but her regret as well. Her greatest regret of not being there for two of her siblings she truly loved and thought she'd lost forever. As the Autobot convoy drove closer towards the hotel, Lelouch spoke with Optimus over his private communication. Either the Japan Liberation Front will accept us as their allies, or they'll view us as a threat to their pride, as we have accomplished much more in a span of a few weeks than they have in years. However, I doubt they'll be able to resist the temptation of meeting us in person. Optimus communicated. True to his word, the JLF soldiers at the front gate stepped aside as the gate opened, clearing the way for the Autobots to enter. Excellent, all the operation's preliminary conditions have been cleared. Zero spoke aloud. The Autobots all pulled to a halt just shy of the main gate. The doors on the sides opened up and the new black-clad rebels quickly gathered out and ran into the foliage of trees and bushes around the area just as the Zero himself stepped down and off of Optimus, allowing him and all the other Autobots to transform to their natural Cybertronian forms. The sight of the Autobots caused a pair of JLF soldiers to look in shock and surprise, though they've no doubt seen it on the news. Seeing the Autobots up close and personal was something else entirely. This also served as the perfect distraction to allow all 20 of the black-clad rebels to slip into the foliage and hide as Ratchet relayed instructions to them via their comm links. Alright, everyone has their assignments. Ratchet informed. Each group's designated location has been marked into your visors. Each of their visors lit up to show them a map of where they needed to be. Move quickly and as quietly and efficiently as possible. You heard M. Ogi said to the group in a whisper as they split off into 5 separate groups of 4, each group had a duffel bag that one member carried over his shoulder. Viceroy, what are we doing? Darlton asked Cornelia as they had just let their most dangerous enemy pass. I believe that letting the Autobots and Zero go in, we can buy some time before the next hostage is executed. Cornelia answered. So, this is our chance, we can hit them all at the same time. Wonderful. I want to thank you for that lovely order. Lloyd exclaimed in joy as he just heard his next set of instructions before he turned to Suzaku, Cecile, and even Dreadwing. They said you got the green light, Lancelot. Oh, and Dreadwing, they want you to go with him too. Both of you are to charge right into that linear cannon in the tunnel. Cecile wasn't as enthusiastic as Lloyd was. Wait, but why would they? I see. Dreadwing spoke up. Cornelia intends to use us as decoys, a distraction to create an opening and allow her own forces to follow through. Right on the noose there. Lloyd continued to laugh. Oh, and Dreadwing, if it's all right with you, if you happen to die in there, can I please examine your remains? I'd love to get an inside look at what makes you Transformers tick. Lloyd, you can't seriously be. Cecile tried to protest but Suzaku interrupted her. Miss Cecile, I'm ready. Please let me do it. If I use the Lancelot, and Dreadwing and I are able to give the hostages an opportunity to be saved, I'll do it. Even if it means being a decoy. Dreadwing was actually impressed with Suzaku's resolve, he was willing to risk his life to save the hostages. I will have to disappoint you, Aspund. But I have no intention of dying today. Dreadwing said as he glanced at Suzaku. This Japan Liberation Front might be formidable, but I promise they haven't faced anything like me before. They will fall by my hand as well as the Lancelots. The Nemesis, Megatron, Soundwave, and Starscream saw a news report come in. As you can see, the mysterious beings known as the Autobots have arrived at the scene of the Lake Kawaguchi Hotel jacking, and Zero is with them. Whether or not they intend to assist the terrorists involved is unknown, so stay tuned. Starscream could only grin evilly. Those dimwits played right into my hands. He said with a chuckle. Thundercracker, Skywarp. Launch with the airstrike unit. We have drawn out the enemy. From on top of the Nemesis flight deck, the ship itself being stationed on Earth's moon, Thundercracker and Skywarp both took a running start before jumping and transforming into their respective vehicle modes and shot up toward the sky, followed by over 20 Viacon troopers, each one transforming into a dark purple alien fighter jet that followed their commanders. Soundwave, send us a spacebridge portal. Thundercracker ordered, causing a large green swirling portal to open up in front of him and Skywarp, who were the first two to enter, followed by their soldiers. Dreadwing had already leapt down the hole and into the tunnel, now he waited for the Lancelot to be lowered down by a tow cable as Suzaku prepared the White Nightmare. Warrant Officer Kurugi, Dreadwing, here are the instructions provided. Cecile began to inform both of them. According to Prime Search, the hostages are located on the hotel's middle floor, and believed to be locked inside a food storage room. Dreadwing, you and the Lancelot will use the utilities tunnel to move under the hotel. Once on site, you will destroy the foundation block and submerge the building. The area with the hostages should hold out for 8 minutes. Hostage rescue and mop-up of the terrorists will be handled by other unites. The Lancelot is equipped with the Varus rifle and that will be used to destroy the foundation. The only variable is that pesky linear cannon waiting for both of you in the tunnel. Lloyd added. You leave that to me. Dreadwing stated as he saw the Lancelot being lowered down next to him. I have a plan to destroy it. Kururugi, I will take point. But, I should, Suzaku was about to protest when Dreadwing spoke up again. As advanced as the Lancelot is, at least by human standards, you yourself are still inexperienced. Dreadwing explained. I have been in many similar battles myself and I know how to address such a situation. Suzaku had to admit that Dreadwing was right, he clearly had more experience than him. Alright, I'll follow your lead. Oh, and Suzaku, we will save your friends. You have my word. Dreadwing turned his head toward him and gave him an assuring nod, causing Suzaku to smile in his cockpit as the Lancelot got into position. Meanwhile, all the hostages continued to sit in the food storage room with a couple of JLF soldiers guarding them. The 4 Ashford students sat close together with Nina being the most frightened as she shook and whimpered with Millie holding her close to comfort her as best she could. Nina happened to glance up at a JLF soldier. An 11. Rai grimaced. Uh-oh. What did you say? The angry soldier scowled to Nina, causing her to whimper even more. Not 11s. We're Japanese, damn it. Yes, we're aware of that. Just lay off of her. Millie exclaimed to the soldier. Then correct her. Give her a break, will you? Rai exclaimed. She's terrified right now, you damn Britannian wannabe. What? The soldier exclaimed with even more fury, as the second soldier came in as well. You heard me. Rai angrily said. You say you wanna take a stand for your country's freedom. That's the same thing the other guys do. They preach they're the good guys when they keep killing innocent people, just like what you're doing now. Shut your damn mouth. The soldier grabbed Rai and pulled him up by the shirt. Stop it. Leave him alone. Shirley tried to stand up only to be kicked back down by the second soldier. As the scuffle occurred, Euphemia, wearing civilian clothing and a pair of glasses as a disguise, tried to stand up to defend them, but one of her disguised bodyguards grabbed her by the wrist and shook her head, telling her no. Don't you dare compare us to those pigs. The soldier shouted to Rai, who only glared in defiance. Why not? I'll say it again, you Britannian wannabe. Rai exclaimed in defiance. I said shut up. The soldier was about to shoot Rai. Millie, Nina, and Shirley were about to scream when Euphemia stood up. Stop it. Who the hell are you? The soldier threw Rai to the ground and Shirley immediately went to his side. I demand you take me to your leader right now. Understand? Euphemia demanded. What? The soldier exclaimed. No, Sub-Viceroy, please. Her bodyguard tried to stop her. You're addressing Euphemia Lee Britannia. She took off her glasses to reveal her face. The third princess of the Britannian Empire. Everyone, both soldier and civilian, gave audible gasps at this revelation. No one had expected this at all. She turned to Rai and gave a soft look. Young man, are you alright? Yeah, he said automatically, not over his shock. Wait, Euphemia, as in, Lelouch Nunnally's sister. Meanwhile, Zero stood in front of Kusakabe, surrounded by several armed JLF soldiers who kept their weapons trained on him in case he tried to pull anything, but Zero wasn't intimidated in the least. You have no intention of joining me? Zero asked Kusakabe. Well, is it true? Kusakabe questioned, seemingly ignoring Zero's question. Is what true? That one of your Autobots defeated Princess Cornelia in battle? Kusakabe questioned. Yes, that is indeed true. Zero responded. However, they are not mine. The Autobots are not war machines like nightmares, they are living sentient beings with their own thoughts and wills. I am cooperating with them, not controlling them. I see. Kusakabe seemed to get it. So they really are alive. You still didn't answer my question, however. You have no intention of joining us. Remove your mask and reveal your real face to us. It's disrespectful not to, Kusakabe demanded. I understand. Zero nodded. But before I do, I'd like to ask you something. What exactly do you hope to accomplish by this action? Gain attention. Kusakabe answered. I want this country and the world to know that the Japanese aren't dead yet. How stale. Zero sighed in disappointment. You people are obsolete, there's no saving you. What? Why you little? One soldier exclaimed. Explain what you mean by that, Zero. Kusakabe stated. Ogi, Colin, and two other black-clad rebels quietly boarded a large empty cargo ship on the other side of the hotel by the docks. Two of the rebels ran up to the ship's control room, where one of them was able to place a small alien-looking device on the main console. Okay, we're in position. The rebel reported through the comms. Understood. Establishing remote control now. Ratchet responded on the other end as the small machine turned on with a blue light before the entire ship activated. Lights shined in the control room as the ship hummed to life and began to slowly sail away from the docks with Colin and Ogi on the deck of the ship. Ogi, Colin, stand by. Fix-It reported through their comms as a ground bridge portal opened in front of them and the news van that was stolen by them drove out with Fix-It himself at the wheel. The van came to a halt as Fix-It wheeled out. I'll handle everything else down here, you two know what to do, right? Don't worry, we got it. Colin nodded. Ratchet worked on his console onboard the Ark as he heard reports come in from the other squads. At the same time, the bridge's main screen showed a three-dimensional screen of the hotel and the Lake Kawaguchi area around it as four separate dots appeared on the four corners around the base of the building. Squad A, all set. Squad B, the bombs are in place. Squad C's got this thing ready to blow. Squad D, we're ready. Understood. Ratchet told everyone. Squads A through D, I am opening a ground bridge portal at each of your locations that should lead directly to the ship. Colin, Ogi, I am opening a portal on your end that'll lead into the hotel, just approximately 10 meters away from the room where the hostages are being kept. Got it, just please try not to teleport us into a wall. Ogi tried to make a joke, causing Ratchet to roll his eyes. Ground bridge activating. Ratchet pulled on a switch, simultaneously opening the 5 separate portals where he saw the readings on the screen above them. Alright, now we. However, Ratchet's attention was caught by a series of alarms as he directed his attention toward the screen to see several new signals incoming towards the hotel, each one bearing the logo of the Decepticons. Oh no. He contacted his leader. Optimus, you have company. Now is the time, Dreadwing exclaimed as he transformed into his jet mode and shot down the tunnel. MEE boost, Lancelot launch. Suzaku shot the Lancelot forward, right behind Dreadwing. The soldiers in the Reiko saw the incoming enemy signals and prepared to fire with their unconventional weapon. In less than a second, they fired their weapon. However, Dreadwing had anticipated this and launched a single missile from his jet mode, one that had one of his custom-made bombs attached to it. It shot at an even faster speed right towards the payload, but before the payload could explode and scatter its shrapnel, Dreadwing remotely detonated his bomb, causing it to explode and take out the payload before it even detonated. The shock from the explosion shot through the tunnel and up the hole. Lloyd and Cecile took cover to avoid getting caught up in the shockwave. I warned you about this, Lloyd. Cecile exclaimed. Looks like Dreadwing's got some tricks up his own sleeves too. Lloyd said enthusiastically before their attention was caught by the sound of aircraft as they could see more than 24 fighter jets flying onto the scene. Cornelia and her royal guard noticed this as well. What's going on here? The princess questioned. Are they friendly? Gwiflord questioned. We haven't received any reports yet. Darlton said as he did not like this. Thundercracker and Skywarp had led to the destination as the hotel came into view. Target in sight. All units, open fire. Thundercracker ordered as he, Skywarp, and all the Viacon troopers launched their missiles directly at the hotel as they themselves pulled out. Optimus, incoming. Ironhide exclaimed as he and the rest of the Autobots opened fire with their Energon blasters and shot at the missiles. Though they managed to take down a few missiles, several managed to actually hit around the hotel, causing the building to shake. Everyone inside felt the hotel shake up, from the hostages still locked in the food storage room, to the JLF soldiers escorting Euphemia to Kusakabe himself and Zero in their room, even Ogi and Colin in a hallway having just arrived via ground bridge. What the hell is going on out there? Colin questioned through the comms. The cons are attacking the hotel. RC exclaimed. What? Ogi practically shouted, almost panicking. Well, what should we do? Proceed as planned. Optimus instructed. The safety of the hostages is your top priority, leave the Decepticons to us. Obi looked a bit unsure, but he knew he could trust Optimus and knew that he was right. The best he and Colin could do right now was save the people trapped in here. All right, we'll leave it to you. He looked to Colin and she nodded in agreement. What was that? Cornelia demanded. I did not order an air strike. Those were definitely not our own. Gwiflord stated. But who? Cornelia looked with a glare as the alien fighter jets made a U-turn back towards the hotel. The building is still standing. Should we open fire again? One Viacon questioned. Negative, engage the Autobots. Thundercracker ordered. They're our first priority. Ah yeah, time to put those wimpy bots in their place. Skywarp shouted enthusiastically as he, and all the Viacons shot down towards the Autobots that remained outside the hotel's main gate. Autobots, we must not allow this struck tray to fall yet. The safety of the hostages depends on it. Optimus ordered as his faceplate activated. Without another word needing to be said, he and the rest of his team opened fire on the incoming Decepticons who retaliated with their own laser fire. About time, I missed fighting these guys. Cliffjumper said as he shot into the air. The Autobots scattered to avoid being shot as they returned fire. A few of their shots even managed to hit their mark and take down 2 or 3 Viacons, causing them to crash and explode on the ground. All the remaining Decepticons transformed and fell to ground as they landed and ran to engage the Autobots in close combat. Thundercracker shot directly toward Optimus as he transformed and drew his blade, ready to swing it at Optimus, who drew one of his own blades to block the strike before engaging Thundercracker in a duel. Bumblebee took the stance of a professional boxer as he engaged a Viacon before punching it across the face. The Viacon attempted to retaliate with a punch of his own before Bumblebee swerved out of the way to deliver a slug to its body. RC ran past the laser fire of 2 incoming Viacons before jumping over them and drawing her arm blades. She sliced at the back of one of them before slicing off its legs to knock it down. The second Viacon tried to grab her only for RC to jump and land on its shoulders before she twisted her legs to twist off the Viacon's head before jumping off. Both of Bulkhead's hands turned into his mace weapons as he brought his right arm down onto the head of one Viacon, completely crushing it before bashing away a second incoming Viacon and transforming his right arm into a cannon to open fire and tear a hole out of an incoming third Viacon. Ironhide ran along the side and opened fire with both his cannons to obliterate 2 incoming Viacon troopers at once before charging toward a third that tried to punch him only for Ironhide to catch his fist and retaliate with his own punch to knock him down. Cliffjumper fired at Skywarp, who hovered in the air in his robot form, only for the black and purple Seeker to shoot down towards him and kick Cliffjumper back. I've waited a long time to shut you up. Skywarp taunted as he tried to shoot at Cliff, only for the red Autobot to maneuver under his laser fire and deliver an uppercut to knock Skywarp down. Looks like you're gonna have to keep waiting. Cliff taunted back with a smirk as he punched Skywarp in the face. What in the world is happening? One JLF soldier questioned as he, and the other soldiers, along with Kusakabe and Zero, looked out the window to see the Autobots, duking it out with the Decepticons. Lelouch's eyes widened underneath the mask. The Decepticons. But how? He turned to Kusakabe and his soldiers. How did you know the Sakuradite allocation meeting was taking place here? He demanded. What? Kusakabe questioned. You knew exactly where and when this meeting would be taking place. How? Zero demanded once more. The information was leaked, one soldier answered. By whom? Zero demanded. I don't know, we just got it in. You fools! Zero exclaimed to the JLF soldiers. You stupid, ignorant fools. This was all a trap. Orchestrated by Britannia's true masters to draw out myself and the Autobots. Kusakabe growled at this as Zero continued. But what's even more pathetic, is that in your stupidity you've become the very thing you claim you fight against. Persecuting and executing the weak and helpless for your own personal gain. You're no different than the rest of Britannia. You're exactly like them. What? How dare you? Kusakabe, having probably lost all remaining rationality, took out his katana. Zero, there's no point talking anymore. The slit in Zero's mask opened as he activated his Geass. Die. In less than a second, Kusakabe turned the katana blade on himself and stabbed himself while the remaining soldiers took out their guns and shot themselves in the head. The commotion forced the soldiers outside to barge in. Colonel. Zero with his own pistol first shot the soldier who came in the shoulder. Calm yourselves. Zero. Euphemia questioned in surprise. She did not expect him to be here at all. The colonel and the others committed suicide once they realized that they were merely pawns in an even greater game. Zero looked towards his half-sister. Euphemia, you were willing to sacrifice yourself for the commoners, you haven't changed. The pink-haired princess looked in surprise at what he just said. Ogie and Colin stood in front of the locked door of the storage room where the hostages were being held. Good thing you gave Ratchet your friend's cell phone numbers, otherwise we'd probably never find them. Ogie told Colin. Yeah, she nodded. Though she was relieved that she was about to get her friends to safety, she also worried that they might recognize her. True, with her visor as well as her change in hairstyle, she might not be recognized. But they might recognize her voice, so she wasn't going to speak. She walked up towards the door handle and pulled out a gun to shoot it off, unlocking it and allowing her to open it to reveal all the hostages, including Rai, Shirley, Millie, and Nina, all looked up to them in surprise. It's okay. Ogie assured them. Don't worry, we're not with the JLF, we're gonna get you all out of here. All of them looked in surprise. Who are you? Shirley asked, still fearful. Ogie turned his shoulder to reveal the red emblem that they all recognized. You're with the Autobots? Rai questioned in surprise. That's right, and they're all outside right now working to help get you all to safety, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Ogie said, though most of the civilians still looked a bit unsure, especially Nina. Ogie sighed a bit, expecting this, but he tried to put on the best brave face he could muster as he tried to carry himself in the same manner Optimus did. Listen, I understand that you're all very scared right now, but I promise we are not here to hurt any of you. You all have families, right? Well, we're going to see to it you see them again. I give you my word, we're going to get all of you out of here, safe and sound. His tone seemed to calm many of them as he offered his hand. Trust me. Rai looked back towards the hostages, particularly his friends. He could tell that this man was honest and was truly here to help them, and if he offered a chance for them all to escape, Rai would take it to make sure his friends would get home safe. The white-haired young man smiled as he took Ogie's hand. Dreadwing and the Lancelot meanwhile continued to shoot down the tunnel when the Reiko shot another shrapnel payload at them. Dreadwing was about to fire another bomb again, but the Lancelot zoomed in front of his vehicle mode as Suzaku brought up the Nightmare's shields to block the attack and protect them both. Kururugi. Dreadwing voiced in surprise. Don't worry, it can handle this destructive force. Suzaku stated. We can do this together. Dreadwing would have smiled if he weren't his vehicle mode. Very well, together then. Both the Lancelot and the Decepticon zoomed down the tunnel as if they were equals. I'll disable the main weapon, you will finish it off. Understood. Suzaku confirmed as Dreadwing shot at an even faster speed, faster than the JLF soldiers in the Reiko could believe. Before they could even react, Dreadwing had transformed and used the momentum gathered by how fast he was moving to propel himself toward the Reiko. In one fluid motion, he drew his sword from his back and yelled as he swiped down and cut a majority of the large cannon off. As most of the Autobots had taken out a large portion of the Vehicons, Optimus himself locked blades with Thundercracker. Leave it to you Autobots to be so predictable. Thundercracker stated. Once word got out that several weak and helpless humans were in danger, you'd come like a scraplet to its next meal. This was Megatron's doing, Optimus questioned as he delivered a kick to knock Thundercracker back. Well, this was actually Starscream's plan. Thundercracker corrected. But it worked, didn't it? And now it is time to end you once and for all. Your honor will be your undoing, Prime. He shot towards him with a jet booster in his back with his blade at the ready, but Optimus was able to block the strike and stabilize himself. Not this day. He converted his blade into his Energon blaster, which he used to score a direct shot at Thundercracker to blast him back. Optimus. Ogie and Colin have secured the hostages and they are all safe. Ratchet informed. Understood. Optimus acknowledged as a ground bridge portal opened behind him. Autobots, fall back. Bumblebee had finished punching down one Vehicon as he regrouped with RC, Bulkhead, and Ironhide to run into the portal just as Optimus did. Cliffjumper was the last as he delivered a sweeping kick to Skywarp. Looks like we'll have to finish our dance later, Skyboy. Cliffjumper gave a mocking salute as he ran into the portal just as it closed, leaving only Skywarp, Thundercracker, and 5 remaining Vehicons. Colin and Ogie had their guns trained on the JLF soldiers just outside the room that once housed the now-deceased Kusakabe as Zero spoke with Euphemia directly. I heard that you are now the sub-viceroy, Your Highness, Princess Euphemia Lee Britannia. It's not an appointment I'm happy with, she replied. Why is that? Is it because you are only a sub-viceroy with no real power under your older sister? Zero questioned. Or is it because you are a pacifist and now have to begin taking a more active role in such a bloodthirsty world? Euphemia's eyes wavered at that question. For both those reasons, she said honestly. And what do you make of the Decepticons? I trust you have had contact with them, yes. Zero questioned, but Euphemia did not respond as she looked away slightly. Did you know that this was their doing? That caught her attention. The Decepticons leaked this information to the JLF and used them to place innocent lives in danger, all to create a lure to draw out their ancient enemy, the Autobots, into the open so that they may destroy them, even if it meant sacrificing all those hostages. Euphemia's eyes widened in shock at that. Did the Decepticons, did Megatron really do this? They would place all these people in danger just to get rid of the Autobots. Their act here is no different than what Clovis did in Shinjuku. Zero continued. He had a secret project going on, and to avoid the risk of it being made public, he tried to cover it up by ordering the deaths of countless men, women, and children. He had no value for any of their lives, but when danger confronted him, he begged for his own to the very end. Clovis Le Britannia died as he lived, a spineless coward. Is that why you killed my brother? Euphemia shook with a voice indicating she was hurt by that. Yes, and the fact that he was also a child of the Emperor. So, Euphemia's eyes shook with fear. Are you going to kill me too for the same reason? That depends, have you killed anyone? Zero questioned. No, I would never do anything like that. Euphemia emotionally exclaimed. Lelouch had a small smile underneath his mask. Then you're safe. Unlike Britannia or the Decepticons, I don't kill innocent people. With the Reiko disabled by Dreadwing, it was now open for Suzaku to deliver the finishing blow as the Lancelot took out the Varus rifle. Dreadwing, you might wanna get out of the way. Suzaku warned as he opened fire, right as Dreadwing transformed and moved out of the way. The Varus shot tore through what was left of the Reiko, causing it to explode in glorious fashion, while also exploding a large majority of the tunnel. Right as the explosion subsided, Dreadwing flew out in his vehicle mode with the Lancelot riding on top. Lloyd smiled at his creation, while Cornelia looked in surprise. Dreadwing, and the 11. Thundercracker, Skywarp, and the Viacons looked behind at the explosion. What was that? One Viacon questioned. Is that Dreadwing? Skywarp questioned. Along with that Kururugi boy. Thundercracker stated. Lancelot was ready to open fire with the Varus, when Dreadwing noticed his fellow Decepticons present. Kururugi stand down. What why would? Suzuka looked in surprise, only to be even further surprised at not just the Decepticons down below, but also the fact he could get a good view of a certain masked man looking out the window. Zero and Euphemia looked in surprise to see the Lancelot riding on top of Dreadwing's vehicle mode. Suzaku. Lelouch voiced in surprise before getting back to the situation and accessing his comms. I need a ground bridge. Now. Less than a second later, a man-sized ground bridge portal opened up in the room, taking Euphemia by surprise, who was even more surprised as Zero suddenly grabbed her by the arm. Come with me. Now. He began to ran into the portal with her before pulling out a trigger in his other hand and pressed the button. Boom. Asterisk. 4 large explosions erupted around the foundation of the hotel. It wasn't long before it began to sink, but it didn't just sink. The explosions were powerful enough to shatter the hotel's entire foundation, causing the whole building to collapse in on itself. Thundercracker and Skywarp were able to barely escape as they transformed and made a bolt for it, while the rest of their Viacon soldiers were caught in the explosion. Euphy! Cornelia screamed in terror. My friends! The Lancelot jumped off Dreadwing and shot down towards the collapsing building. Warrant Officer Kururugi don't. Lloyd tried to stop him but he was already gone. Kururugi. Dreadwing flew down after him. The Nemesis screens showed the footage of the building collapsing as all the Decepticon signals in the area went offline with the exceptions of Dreadwing, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. Starscream gave an audible gasp at this outcome, while Megatron looked in anger. Starscream, what happened? the Lord of the Decepticons demanded. The cowardly Decepticon seeker stuttered for a bit before accessing communications. Thundercracker, Skywarp, what happened? The two remaining seekers had transformed back onto the main bridge just outside the ruins of the collapsed hotel. I don't know, the whole thing just went up. Skywarp responded. Was this their plan? Thundercracker questioned. The Autobots grunbedridged out just before the explosion. Did they anticipate this? Detard and his crew were in the news van 2 trying to get a fix on what just happened. What about the cameras in van 3? I told you, Zero took them. Well, let's hope we pick up a signal from them. Diethard exclaimed. What are you doing? Zero. Optimus Prime. Wasn't this your plan? To show us something? Dreadwing flew through the smoky area before he saw the stationary Lancelot. He then transformed and landed right next to him and approached the Silent Nightmare. Dreadwing, are you still there? Is Suzaku? Cecile tried to contact him. I am here, and Kururugi is alive as well. Dreadwing responded. Suzaku may have been physically alive, but inside, he may as well be dead. His eyes filled with tears. I couldn't rescue them, they're dead, I failed. Not again. He slammed his fist on his controls in frustration and grief. Dreadwing offered a somber look towards Suzaku but said nothing. I feel your pain, Suzaku. Truly, I do. Meanwhile, on the Ark, Fix-It was at his own controls as he made final calculations. Alright, everything is all set. Ratchet still had some doubts however. After this, the whole world will be focused on them, but this was Lelouch's plan and even Optimus agreed it was the best possible option. He may be a bit wary of Lelouch, but he trusted Optimus with his life. With a determined expression, Ratchet spoke. Then by all means, let us light this world's darkest hour. He pressed the final command on the console. With that, the signal that was copied from Van 3 began to transmit all across the nation of Japan. With the Ark's own systems, the signal reached every single screen in the country, every home television, every portable computer, even the large public jumbotrons throughout the Tokyo settlement. Even the Nemesis was able to pick it up through soundwave as he, Megatron, and Starscream saw static before it cleared up to reveal a certain masked figure. Zero. Starscream voiced in surprise while Megatron raised an eyebrow. My dear Britannians, have no fear. All of the hostages from the hotel are safe and sound. The screen shifted to reveal all the hostages on a multitude of lifeboats across Lake Kawaguchi, including Rai, Nina, Shirley, and Millie, even Euphemia and her bodyguards. We returned them to you unharmed. Starscream gave an audible gasp. They tricked us. He glanced back towards Megatron who glared down at his subordinate. They saved them, Dreadwing voiced in surprise. Suzaku didn't bother to hold back his tears of joy. They're fine. They're all right. Rivals exclaimed as he saw this on a TV as well. Cornelia scowled. Of all the brazen audacity. If we attack you, those people will quickly become your hostages, won't they? However, her pride and anger once again blinded her, as what Zero said was true, the hostages were indeed safe and would not become his prisoners. Don't make any promises you can't keep. Skywarp was ready to open fire when Megatron suddenly contacted him. Skywarp. Thundercracker. Stand down immediately. Lord Megatron. Thundercracker tried to protest. We can still. I said stand down. That is an order. Megatron knew that if any Decepticon attacked and killed Britannian civilians in front of such a massive audience, it would cause some serious complications between the Decepticons and the Britannian military, and Megatron did not need that yet. Zero stood on the deck of the cargo ship that Ogi and Colin previously secured, with several cameras attached around the ship as the freed hostages, lifeboats surrounded it. But right away, a multitude of lights shined around him to reveal not only Optimus Prime with his fellow Autobots, Bumblebee, RC, Cliffjumper, Ironhide, and Bulkhead standing behind on the deck, but also 20 rebels, including Ogi, Colin, and Tamaki, all previously from either the Kuzuki Resistance Cell or the Yamato Alliance now banded together under one name. People of the Earth, Zero announced to everyone watching. Fear us or rally behind us as you see fit. We are the Autobots and the Black Knights. Black Knights? Megatron questioned with a raised eyebrow, having his full attention drawn to the screen. It was now Optimus' turn to speak. We of this alliance of Autobots and Black Knights stand with all sentient beings unable to defend themselves, regardless of their nationality. Kusakabe led a faction of the Japan Liberation Front to take multiple innocent Britannian civilians hostage and even threatened to execute them. It was a wanton and meaningless act, therefore they have been punished. Zero stated as well. Toto and several other JLF soldiers watched this broadcast as well from their headquarters. But it was not just them. Zero continued. The Decepticons, a faction of sentient alien machines, with the same moral views as the Britannian Empire and the true masters of the Empire, used this incident as bait to lure us out in the open with the intent on destroying us and sacrificing the hostages in the process. Toto's eyes slightly widened in surprise at this. What? Cornelia growled as she gnashed her teeth together. Did the Decepticons really use these civilians, her own sister, as bait? Oh, there will be hell to pay. The Decepticons themselves have yet to be punished, but I promise you, they will receive justice all the same. Zero stated as his broadcasted continued to play on the Nemesis screen. Starscream's eyes radiant with fear, as it appeared this human was able to completely turn his plan around. Megatron however wasn't fazed in the least as he kept watching. You heard me right. I said let it run. Diethard exclaimed over a link to the main studio. Liable. I'll be the one responsible for this. Prince Clovis Le Britannia as well acted the same when he ordered the execution of the populace of Shinjuku without remorse. Optimus' face was alongside Zero's all over Area 11 as the Autobot leader spoke. We stood up to him as well as the oppressive Empire because we will not allow this madness to continue. We will not stand by and allow the weak and innocent to suffer at the hands of the corrupt. We will not repudiate battle on a fair and level field, but neither will we tolerate a one-sided massacre of the weak by the strong. Zero stated in front of the Britannian military as well as the Decepticons present. The only ones who should kill are those who are prepared to be killed. Cornelia glared at that along with her soldiers. Skywarp and Thundercracker practically growled at that particular comment. Dreadwing had a serious expression as did Suzaku as they all watched. Optimus' voice echoed throughout Area 11 and even reached the Ashford Academy Student Council building, to the radio that both Nunnally and Sayoko were listening to. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. We will fight to protect that freedom, no matter the cost. Whosoever will endanger the weak and helpless will face us in battle, and we will do everything in our power to stop you. Sayoko continued to listen as did Nunnally. She didn't know why, but when she first heard Zero's voice, something about it felt familiar. And upon hearing the voice of Optimus, a wave of calmness washed over her. Just from hearing that voice she felt both safe and empowered, she felt inspired. Knights for Justice and Freedom, Colin thought as she stood alongside Zero. Here she stood among Titans and who saw her as a fellow soldier in arms. She would be fighting to protect the weak and helpless alongside them, as their equal. She couldn't help but smile. You better be ready for us, Megatron. Bumblebee thought. 'Cause we're coming for you. Those of you with power, fear us. Zero spread out his right arm under his cape, causing it to blow in the wind. Those of you without it, rally behind us. His left arm spread out as well. We, the Black Knights and the Autobots, shall be the ones who stand in judgment of this world. Right then, the footage was cut off and replaced with static before it cleared to reveal a black background with the emblem of the Union of the Autobots and the Black Knights. The red Autobot emblem with the silver symbol of the Black Knights, all together, flashed all across Area 11, and even on the screen of the Nemesis Bridge. It was deathly silent as Starscream did not speak a word that would invoke the wrath of his master. However, while Megatron was indeed with Starscream for his failure, he looked in amusement at the screen. The only ones who should kill, are those who are prepared to be killed, him. Megatron smiled evilly. Well then, Lelouch, Optimus, let our game begin. Reflections. Colin lay asleep on her bed as the television remained on, as she had forgotten to turn it off before going to bed. Clearing the last of the debris from around the Lake Kawaguchi Center Hotel. It's been about 2 weeks since Zero and these mysterious Autobots revealed their Black Knights. Yet there's still no insight to the man behind the mask, nor to what these Autobot beings are or where they came from. They weren't able to track their escape route. Apparently they left none behind. After the revelation of the Black Knights, they simply vanished and left no trace. What about those other metallic beings whom the Autobots battled without outside the hotel? They didn't appear to be any form of nightmares. Unknown, although Zero and one Autobot named Optimus Prime mentioned another entity they referred to as the Decepticons, and claimed that they were the true masters of the Britannian Empire. Perhaps that was who they were. What exactly did they mean by that? Were they suggesting that these Decepticons are really the ones in charge of our empire? Perhaps it was some form of publicity to sway public opinion to their side. It seems highly unlikely that our own empire would be. Crash. Asterisk. That large crashing sound from outside awoke Colin from her slumber. She put on a bathrobe and went outside to see what the commotion was. She looked in the hallway to see a brown-haired middle-aged woman in a maid's outfit on her knees right by a broken chandelier and stepladder. The maid turned to see the red-haired girl. Colin. I mean, miss. Forgive me, I didn't wish to wake you. Again. Colin questioned with a raised eyebrow. I'm sorry, it was a step ladder this time. It broke. Well, just get it cleaned up, and make it quick. I have to leave for school. Colin told her. Mistress, you've been attending school quite a bit lately. Making any friends there? Colin scowled. I don't see how that's any of your business. She stormed back into her room. Oddly though, the maid still had a warm smile on her face. However, once the door closed and Colin was alone, her face became filled with internal pain. Just go, will you? She looked towards a framed picture with her, at the age of 7 or 8, her brother, and an older woman with a sticker over her face. Later that night, a pair of shady business dealers were in a warehouse just outside the Tokyo settlement, making final arrangements on their deal as their men loaded their product on a large truck. I know it's for welfare, but why waste it on the 11s? That's why I'm selling it to you, my friend. The 11 population could use some thinning out if you ask me. Your payment will be transferred to your wife's account. Princess Cornelia is so busy dealing with those giant robots, she really doesn't have time for us, small-timers. Crash. Asterisk. Walls on both sides of the warehouse, along with the main gate, were all broken down as a black and red pickup truck. A dark green SUV, and a red and blue semi-auto truck all poured in, causing chaos as the criminals were completely circled right when the vehicles pulled to a halt before several Black Knights all poured out with their guns just as the Autobots transformed to reveal Bulkhead, Ironhide, and even Optimus Prime, with Zero himself standing on a catwalk on even level with Optimus' head. Drop your weapons, Bulkhead exclaimed as he and Ironhide readied their energon blasters. Hands where we can see 'em. Ironhide ordered, as well as all the criminals quickly and fearfully raised their hands. You're the one, shady dealer stuttered as he gazed up in fear at Optimus and Zero as they glared down on him. Autobots. Colin shot up as she just dozed off in class, having just woken herself up from her memory dream. Immediately, most of the class laughed at her embarrassment while she did her best to keep her sickly girl facade, hiding her blushed face. Once class had ended, Rye, Shirley, and Rivals approached Colin to see if she was alright. That's not like you, dozing off in class like that, Shirley said. Yeah, you okay, Colin? Maybe you need to go to the doctor's office? Rye asked. No, I'm fine. I just have had trouble sleeping, that's all. Colin rubbed her tired eyes. You could learn a thing or two from Lelouch. He's an expert at sleeping in class. Rivals pointed to Lelouch on the other side of the classroom. Wait, is he sleeping now? Rye asked as they turned toward him. Lelouch was indeed asleep, though he had his head propped up on his hand to keep up the facade he was awake, his eyes were closed shut. I don't know what he's up to night after night, but he sleeps through about half of them these days. Rivals said. Hey Rye, you've been living with Lulu and his sister, you know why that is? Shirley asked the amnesiac youth. No clue. Rye shrugged. He really hasn't said anything to me. All the while Colin looked towards Lelouch in surprise with a raised eyebrow. Why would he be sleeping in class like her? Dreadwing flew towards the central palace in the settlement and transformed into his robot form as he landed near the bullet train station along the side of the building. There, Princess Cornelia, Princess Euphemia, and several of their guards stood waiting for him. You summoned me, Princess Cornelia. Dreadwing gave a respectful bow. Yes, Dreadwing. Cornelia began. I will be leaving Area 11 temporarily. Ever since the Autobots have made their big debut, other nations including the EU have been to rise up. It's high time Area 11 was made a satellite nation, but for that to happen we need to stamp out terrorism of course, but another major problem is the rampant use of a drug called refrain amongst the 11s. So you intend to hit a major supply route and cut off this nation's access? Dreadwing stated. Cornelia had an impressed smirk. You catch on quick. Do you need my assistance in this endeavor? Dreadwing asked. No, I can handle a few drug dealers. Cornelia responded. But while I'm away, I need you to watch over Euphemia and make sure she stays out of trouble. She gestured to her younger sister, as she looked a little embarrassed. While I'm gone, it may give our more dangerous foes an opportunity to make a more bold move. I understand. Dreadwing nodded. I will watch over Princess Euphemia. He bowed to the aforementioned sub-viceroy who nodded. Cornelia, what about the Autobots and the Black Knights? Euphie asked her older sister. I'll let them roam free a bit longer. I owe them that for saving your life. Cornelia replied with a warm smile. Dreadwing seemed to understand as well. It was clear that Cornelia cared deeply for her sister, and as her opponents rescued her, honor demanded that she at least owe them something in return. However, upon my return, I intend to deal with them personally. Do you understand, Dreadwing? Cornelia told the Decepticon. If they make any attempt on us during my time away, deal with them how you see fit. If they don't however. Very well. Dreadwing understood. Cornelia nodded before looking to her sister again and affectionately put a hand under her chin. Once I've cleared up this area, I'm entrusting it to you. Try to stay out of harm's way from now on, alright Euphie? The younger princess nodded as Cornelia smiled before walking away. As she did, Euphie gave a slight glance towards Dreadwing. While she could say that most of the Decepticons intimidated her quite a bit, especially their leader, Dreadwing was one she at least felt comfortable around. He seemed to take an interest in Suzaku, and actually helped to stop that mess with the purebloods back in Shinjuku before she made her debut. But as she thought more about the Decepticons, she kept also thinking about the Autobots and what Zero had said to her when she met him back at the hotel. She remembered him calling Clovis a coward and a murderer, and how bloodthirsty Britannia was. It was clear that he hated the Empire, and she didn't really blame him. Euphemia wasn't exactly a fan of Britannia's conquests either. However, she also thought about what he said about the Decepticons setting up the entire hotel jacking. Princess Euphemia. She was slightly startled out of her thoughts by Dreadwing as he spoke. Is everything alright? Why, yes, everything's fine. I was just thinking about something else. She sighed before she spoke up again. Dreadwing, was it true? Was what true? That the Decepticons were responsible for the hotel jacking, all to be used as bait to draw out Zero and the Autobots. Dreadwing was mildly surprised before answering. Well, that is partially true. Information was leaked to the Japan Liberation Front, which led to the incident. However, it was not the act of the Decepticons as a whole, but an overbearing commander who chose to work behind Lord Megatron's back. I can promise you that he has been duly punished. Flashback. Nemesis, 2 weeks ago. Please Lord Megatron. I meant no. Starscream's begging was ceased as Megatron smacked him down. I had ordered you not to interfere without my knowledge. Megatron exclaimed as he backhanded Starscream and sent him flying across the bridge of the ship, while Thundercracker, Skywarp, and Soundwave just watched. Instead, your mindless agenda not only failed to eliminate our enemy, but even increased support for them, and potentially exposed us. As Megatron loomed closer, the shivering commander backed away on his hands and feet. My intentions were pure, Master. I only wanted you to be rid of Optimus. Megatron stomped his foot onto Starscream in direct response to that. No one rids me of Optimus Prime but me. Do you understand? Do you? Skywarp chuckled. No pressure Starscream. His chuckle was cut off by an energon blast from Megatron's fusion cannon that forced him and Thundercracker to both duck. Be silent. You two are just as responsible as him. Megatron exclaimed as he lifted his foot from Starscream and picked him up by the throat. Listen well, all of you. Unless I say, you will not engage the Autobots in public again. If you do, I will personally melt you down to be used as exoskeletons for Britannia's nightmares. Am I understood? Yes, Lord Megatron. Thundercracker and Skywarp bowed in fear. Yes, Master. Starscream gasped as Megatron continued to hold his throat before he let him go and dropped him on the floor. All the while, Starscream hid his scowl. Why should they care about a few measly humans? Britannian or not. One thing he knew for sure, the Decepticons would do much better if they were let off the leash and ripped all of Area 11 apart. Why should Britannia rule when they were the superior ones? Present day, the Ark. Several of the Black Knights were in a newly finished cargo bay for their many acquired nightmares getting them adjusted. Pretty much all of them were Sutherlands that they already stole from Saitama, or other missions, with the exception of the Glasgow. All the Sutherlands had been given a black paint job to separate them from the military units, along with the red emblem of the Autobot Black Knight Alliance being engraved onto the Nightmare's shoulders. Of course, it wasn't just paint jobs, they did some minor tinkering with the Nightmare's maneuverability as well. Among the Black Knights present were several Autobots assisting them, including RC, Fix-It, and Bulkhead, with Ratchet of course being the supervisor. Okay, I think this one's all done. Sugiyama made final adjustments on one Black Sutherland as Fix-It rolled up with his scanner. Energon integration seems to be proceeding normally. Fix-It reported. Now let's move on to the others. Keep it up there Bulkhead, almost done here. Minami made a few tweaks on the back of Sutherland as Bulkhead himself actually held the Nightmare up with his bare hands. No worries, I can keep this up all day. The former wrecker said with ease. Fuel line looks dead, Inoue commented as she inspected another Nightmare. Probably a cracked part somewhere. RC handed her a spare Nightmare part. Maybe it needs one of these. Inoue looked a bit skeptical. You're a motorcycle, RC. Shouldn't you know your way around Earth vehicles? You're a human Inoue, can you build me a small intestine? RC remarked sarcastically. Careful, Ratchet advised everyone. Though primitive, we only have so many Nightmares at our disposal. Everything must be attended to with extreme care and precision. Ogi had a bit of a warm smile as he stood on a balcony alongside Tamaki. Well, looks like things are going pretty smoothly. Nice to know everyone's getting along. Yeah, so when are we gonna tear down Britannia already? Tamaki complained. When we have a fully functioning army with all the resources we need. Ratchet said to Tamaki as he walked to the pair. There are only 7 Autobots with combat capabilities, and a handful of Black Knights with even fewer Nightmares. He's got a point Tamaki. Ogi seemed to agree. I mean Britannia's been ruling for centuries, and they already make up 1/3 of the whole planet. We're not gonna tear it down overnight with what we have now. Tamaki grumbled. So why the hell are we playing superhero right now? We're going up against small-time losers with giant alien robots. The hell is Zero and Prime thinking by making us do this? Aside from it being the right thing to do. Ogi questioned with a raised eyebrow. Ratchet gave an annoyed sigh, especially with that comment about Optimus. This action will help increase support for our cause, which could bolster recruitment and increase our ranks. Building an army is more than just flashy explosions. Yeah, but they're a whole lot more fun. Tamaki grumbled. Tamaki, if you're frustrated, then channel that energy into doing something useful, like helping everyone else right now. Ratchet gestured towards all the bots and knights working on the Nightmares. Fine. Tamaki sighed as he crawled down the ladder from the balcony towards the crew. Sorry about him, Ogi told Ratchet. He's a good guy, but he's really impatient. I've noticed. The Autobot medic replied. Ogi gave a slight chuckle as he rubbed the back of his neck. Feels kinda good, ya know. Helping all these people the way we've been doing. Ever since this whole thing started, Britannia's called us terrorists, and I've hated it. But now, I feel like we're real heroes. Man, Naoto would probably be laughing his butt off right now, considering we're working with aliens. Sorry, sometimes I mumble. It's fine. Ratchet waved. I imagine it is quite fantastic from your point of view. So Ratchet, how long do you think it'll be till we actually fight the Decepticons? Hard to say. The Autobot medic said. Megatron is most likely assessing what we are capable of right now before he can think of the best way to handle us. And given that we still know little of what he has at his disposal, we are essentially going in blind. That made sense. Ogi didn't know what to expect from the Decepticons because not even the Autobots knew. Still though, as he looked to his jacket, toward the logo on his shoulder, one that symbolized the union between the Autobots and the Black Knights, he couldn't help but smile. He felt like he was a part of something that not even Britannia could amount toward. A small explosion and a plume of smoke that arose from a nightmare's shoulder however caught his and Ratchet's attention. Tamaki, what the hell did you do? Yoshida questioned as every bot and knight looked towards Tamaki as he was covered in soot. I just crossed some wires. Thought we could get some more firepower going. Tamaki coughed as he brushed the smoke out of his face. Ratchet was not pleased. Tamaki, we needed that. As everyone came over to try and help, Ogi chuckled a bit. Wonder how Colin's doing right now. Ashford Academy. Colin placed her hand on the doorway that led into the student council room as she gave a huge yawn. Man, this double life sure is a killer. Hey, you okay, Colin? Rai walked towards her as he looked in concern. Yeah, I think so. She tried to push herself up. I told you I had trouble sleeping earlier. Let's just hope it's not insomnia. He tried to joke, as she shook her head with a smile. I can promise you, it's not that. Come on, Suzaku, hold him down. She heard Millie on the other side of the door, followed by Lelouch's yelling. Damn it, Suzaku, cut it out. Stop it, I'm not kidding. Sorry, Lelouch, but it's the president's orders. Colin opened the door and looked in surprise along with Rai to see most of the student council, all dressed in cat suits, around Lelouch, who was currently tied to a chair struggling as Shirley tried to put cat makeup on him. Suzaku and Rivals were in blue and yellow large cat suits respectively, while Millie and Shirley had black and red cat lady costumes on as well. Even Nina, who sat away from the group as usual at her computer, had a tiger hat on. Yeah, like you're not enjoying this at all. Will you hold still? Shirley told him. Millie noticed Colin and Rai enter the room. Good. Meowing. Good morning, I guessed. Colin wasn't sure what to think about all this. What the heck is going on and why is Lelouch tied to a chair? Rai asked. What do you mean? Didn't we tell you guys? It's our welcome party for Arthur. Rivals answered, gesturing to the stray cat they took in who slept on his cat tree. So we finally named him, huh? I would have gone with Napoleon myself. Rai said. Well, classes are postponed, we might as well have some fun, right? Millie said. I set some stuff for you guys over on the side there. Shirley pointed to a whole bunch of cat costumes over by the window. It's kind of an apology for me getting so upset before Colin. She doesn't need a costume. Lelouch said with a bit of a knowing smirk as he looked to Colin. You're already wearing a mask, right? What? Rai questioned with a surprised look on his face. Nothing, just him being a jerk as usual. Colin shot the black-haired youth a glare. Speaking of masks, I gotta ask. What was it like to meet Zero and those giant Autobot guys? Rivals asked excitedly. I mean, if it were me, I'd be geeking out like crazy. Shirley looked a bit frustrated. Will you quit joking about that? The whole thing's been a huge pain in the butt. We've been hounded with questions day and night. We haven't been able to leave school grounds in a week for crying out loud. Well, I will say it was kind of exciting. Rai said. I mean, being taken hostage wasn't cool, but being that close to literal giants, and that man, that Zero who stood among titans as if he were one himself, wow. It honestly felt amazing. Lelouch tried his best to hide a smile. Shirley honestly felt the same way. When I first saw those Autobots on TV, I felt like I was living in some kind of science fiction story. We didn't actually meet them, but being that close, and those Black Knights, they saved our lives. She had a warm smile. I personally hope to see them again, just so I can thank all of them. Millie had one of her smirks. A man who stands among titans can only be a titan himself, if not in stature then in heart and courage. Is that your idea of a love quote? Rivals asked. It means that you're either really brave, or just plain stupid. Millie said bluntly. That's an odd way of looking at it. Rai was a bit surprised. What do you think, Suzaku? However, Rai looked in even further surprise to see Suzaku had tears in his eyes. I'm glad that we can be together again, you know, like this. Suzaku covered his teary eyes. Lelouch had a bit of an exhausted smile. Though he honestly felt the same way and was glad his friends were back safe and sound, he was a bit tired of how emotional Suzaku could be. Rivals leapt from over the chair Lelouch was tied to and playfully tackled Suzaku to the ground. Come on, we're supposed to be unwinding here. Most of the students laughed at the scene. That's what's so refreshing about Suzaku though. Shirley said with a smile. Yeah, though once in a while, you just want him to get a clue, you know. Millie teased. Oh, sorry about that. Suzaku apologized. Are you love it putty tat? Rivals playfully squashed his cheeks, resulting in everyone else laughing once more. Even Colin had a small smile. After the party was done, Colin walked off campus where she spotted a certain red car with a horn decoration on the hood. And how was your day at school today? Cliffjumper teased as she got in. Fine, just a bunch of idiots throwing a party for a cat. Colin said as Cliffjumper drove off. Is that a smile on your face? Didn't know you could smile. Colin's smile faded, as she looked more annoyed now. You're quite the conversationalist. I'm chatty, it's part of my charm. She sighed as she looked out the window as they drove through the settlement. Pretty much everywhere they went, they would see something that always showed off the Autobots and the Black Knights, from wanted posters, to newspapers, to even kids playing on the streets. Man, it's only been 2 weeks since that mess at the hotel, yet the whole world still can't get over us. Cliffjumper remarked. We're total celebrities. Well, it's not every day that a bunch of giant talking robots play superhero. Colin remarked. It was still true, ever since the hotel jacking, the Autobots and Black Knights have been wiping Area 11 clean. Terrorists who involve civilians, overbearing military, corrupt politicians, drug cartels. Each of them was met with a quick and decisive end. Depending on what they were facing, it was always the same nearly every night or so. A small team of Autobots and Black Knights would attack an enemy base. 2 or 3 Autobots would charge in and take the brunt of it, showing off their firepower to force the criminals to disarm as the Black Knights came in to find the necessary evidence and take the weapons away. They did it with minimal causalities as all the crimes were exposed to the public, leaving the local police with no choice but to arrest and convict the criminals or else face a serious backlash from the public, as even the most corrupt of politicians committed acts that even Britannian civilians would condone. Support for the Autobots and the Black Knights grew every day, not just from the Japanese but even Britannian civilians as well. However, not everyone was giving them praise. Colin gazed out the window as Cliffjumper pulled up to a traffic signal. She saw a kid with a black cape running down the sidewalk when his mother came up to him. Stop pretending you're a Black Knight. But why? We mustn't say anything against Britannia. We're 11s, have you forgotten that? Colin's smile had faded as Cliffjumper continued to drive. Looks like we're not heroes to everyone. The disguised Autobot commented. Not surprising, given we're now directly against Britannia, and they've held this country in a death grip for so long. She didn't say anything, but knew that he was right. Still there was something on her mind that she wanted to ask him. Cliffjumper. That's my name. Was it like this, on your planet? Colin asked. I can't really say. Cliffjumper replied, catching Colin's attention. B.R.C. and I were actually born once the whole war started. Most of Cybertron was already in chaos. I don't know what it was like before the whole mess started. You'd have to ask Optimus, or Ratchet, or even Ironhide about all that. How exactly are Cybertronians born anyway? Colin questioned. Do you guys, you know? No, not like what you organics do. The red Autobot explained. See, we're not born like you guys. Cybertronians usually come into existence via the well of all sparks on our home planet. Every Cybertronian, bot or con, has a spark inside them. A spark? Colin asked with a raised eyebrow. You could say it's our soul. Cliffjumper continued. Anyway, our sparks have a special techno-organic metal grown around it and we pop out of the well like you see us. We're not babies and we don't really grow. We just come out like this. We know how to walk, talk, all that, even transform. Colin looked a bit stunned, but not too overly surprised. Since they were aliens, she expected something like this. Huh. That was all she could say as Cliffjumper pulled up to her mansion. Alright, I'll see you later. She got out. Don't be so sure, partner. I'm sticking around here from now on. Cliffjumper said, causing Colin to turn around in surprise. Excuse me. Yeah, you could say I'm your guardian now. The talkative Autobot said. RC wanted to do it, but since you got that frail sickly girl thing going on at school, it would seem out of character for you to have a motorcycle. So you're stuck with me. But since C and I are partners, when it comes to missions, you're stuck with both of us. The red-haired girl seemed a bit irked by this. It wasn't like she needed babysitter. But then again, having an Autobot with her would make it easier to get to the Ark instead of a ground bridge portal opening up in her living room. Fine, just don't let anyone see you. She turned around with a huff and walked away. Hey, robots in disguise, Cliff said as she entered her house. Man, she's just like you RC. The next day, Nina sat alone in the student council room. Though it was a weekend, it wasn't uncommon to stay on school grounds during that time considering it was a boarding school. Plus there was still the press outside, and she wasn't much a people person. Though as she continued to type, she couldn't help but think of her time as a captive of the JLF along with the others. She remembered Rai calling the JLF soldier a wannabe Britannian. Why would he compare a terrorist to a Britannian? They weren't the same. It was ridiculous to even think of such a thing. Yet it was also in that same moment. You're addressing Euphemia Lee Britannia, the third princess of the Britannian Empire. Princess Euphemia stood up and carried such a commanding tone, yet her eyes were so soft and gentle. Nina stopped typing as her cheeks turned pink. JLF headquarters. Toto sat in a meditative stance along with his personal unit, the Four Holy Swords, comprised of 4 strong and experienced soldiers as they discussed recent events. Why would the masses flock around those who saved Euphemia? Urabe questioned. Maybe because they're so amazed that her saviors happen to be living machines that make nightmares look like nutcrackers. Asahin guessed. We've heard that even Kyoto is considering sending the Black Knights not just the Gurren Mk2, but also the prototype of the Gekka as well. Senba informed. To those would be Robin Hoods. Urabe questioned once more. They're not part of the resistance. Killing Kusakabe was part of that. Chiba stated. The colonel killed himself, didn't he? Urabe asked. He was kind of out of line, and I'm not really surprised. Asahin said. The Black Knights are working with those Autobot guys and they've shown that they can take down Britannian nightmares easily. Personally, I wouldn't mind working with them myself. Urabe chuckled a bit. Yeah, that was pretty cool. However, Chiba and Senba gave slight glares towards Urabe and Asahin before turning to their leader. Toto, we cannot let this stand. Senba told him. The silent samurai opened his eyes and spoke. I feel it is best we simply let them be. Chiba didn't expect to hear those words. Lieutenant Colonel Toto, why would you suggest something like that? As Asahina said, those Autobots have proven strong enough to defeat the Britannian purebloods with minimal effort. Toto explained. If we were to combat them, I honestly would say they would more than likely destroy us completely. Not to mention those other machines they fought outside the hotel. What was it that Zero and that Autobot leader called them? Deceivingtrons. Decepticons. Senba corrected. They also told them how they were, the true masters of Britannia. Toto, do you actually believe that? Chiba questioned. It doesn't matter if I do or don't. Toto said. There are just too many unknown factors present at the moment. If we become involved, it could make the situation all the more complicated. I'd prefer to at least know what is going on before charging in blindly. For now, we let things unfold. All 4 members of the Holy Swords nodded in understanding, some more reluctantly, as they knew their leader was right. However, it was not just these Autobots and Decepticons that caught Toto's attention, it was also Zero. Though he didn't say it out loud, there was something about the masked individual that felt very familiar. Statfeld residence. Mistress Colin. Mistress Colin. The same maid from before called to Colin as she walked down the stairs towards the main entrance to see Millie walking in with a case in her hands. Madam President. Colin didn't expect to see her here. I just dropped by to give you something. Where would you like me to show her to? The maid asked Colin. The parlor perhaps, or maybe. We'll be in my room. Colin said bluntly. As you wish. Oh, I heard you had a friend down here. All eyes were set upstairs to a middle-aged blonde woman in a noble's dress. I was sure it'd be a boy. Out all night and missing school with those metallic abominations on the prowl, not to mention all your visits to the ghetto. You're lucky your father's back in the homeland. She glared down at the maid. No fighting one's blood is there. The maid backed away slightly. You're the one who's enjoying dad not being around here, aren't you? Colin exclaimed to the noble woman as she glared down. However, the maid accidentally backed into a pot of flowers, causing to fall and break on the ground. Oh dear, what have I done? The maid stuttered. "What's wrong with you?" The woman scolded her. "Forgive me, milady. Forgive me." The maid kneeled down and attempted to pick up the pieces. "Can't you do anything right? Besides selling your body, that is?" Colin had led Millie to her room as the two sat at a small table, with Colin having brought some tea. "Quite the complicated home life you have, isn't it?" Millie observed. "So what was it that you wanted to give me?" Colin got straight to the point. "Grandfather asked me to pass this on." Millie reached into her case. "You mean the principal?" Millie pulled out a piece of paper. "Your transcript since middle school." Colin looked in surprise as Millie put it down on the table. "I thought I'd better give them to you off of school grounds." "So my secret's out then, isn't it? That I'm actually an 11 and Britannian half-breed?" Colin grumbled. "No, it's just between us," Millie said, surprising Colin. "I promise you, I'm not a racist or anything, but I've seen how some people at the school can be, so I promise I won't say anything." Colin had not expected Millie to be so considerate. "That was my stepmother down there. My real mother was that cloud of a maid who knocked over the vase," she said as she began to sign off the paperwork. "And your father, is he the head of the Statfeld family?" Millie asked, to which Colin nodded. "My mother is such a fool, in the end, she wound up his servant," Colin said in a low tone. "She doesn't have any real skills, and no matter who's ridiculing her, all she can do is laugh like it's nothing. She didn't have to choose to stay in this house, you know. She's just clinging to some old lover who's jilted her." Millie offered Colin a sympathetic look. "You really hate your mother, don't you?" "I just find her depressing," Colin said as she began to pour some tea for Millie. "Well, this is getting a little heavy." Millie may have been a bit of a drama queen at times, but she didn't really expect any of this. Imagine, the wife, the daughter, and the other woman all living together. Could be worse. 3 square meals and a roof, right? Colin said. "I mean, it's not unbearable, most of the time anyway." "That's good, still, some things in life we can bear on our own. But when you add them all up, they eventually break you." Millie actually placed her hand on Colin's. "It wouldn't hurt to open up a bit to others, let some friends in from time to time." Colin looked up to Millie as the blonde gave an assuring smile. "Oh, don't worry. I won't lie, I'm always hungry for secrets, but I'd never talk about this." Miss Kazuki sat on the bed in her own personal room, which could be the equivalent to a closet with hateful slang written on the walls by the other maids such as, "Get lost," "You rubbish," "Filthy 11," and, "We'll kill you." She opened the drawer on her desk to reveal several vials and an injector. "Ashford Academy, Student Council Room. I can't believe you teared up, so embarrassing," Lelouch commented as he sat on chair and read a magazine while Rai sat across from him eating a sandwich as Suzaku tried to get Arthur out of a box. "It's called honesty," Suzaku said before he grunted as Arthur bit down onto his hand. "Well, it's good to know you care," Rai said in a joking tone. "Of course I care, you're all my friends," Suzaku said. "I was joking. You could learn to loosen up a bit from time to time," Rai advised. "I guess." Suzaku grunted as he lifted his arm to reveal Arthur hanging by his teeth onto Suzaku's sleeve. "See?" Rai chuckled a bit at that. "Like that," he said as he helped pry Arthur off of Suzaku and put the cat on a cat tree. "Either way, I'm just glad the Black Knights and the Autobots were there to save you guys," Lelouch said. "That makes 2 of us," Rai replied as he sat back down to resume his sandwich. "If they wanted to catch criminals, they could have helped the police force, you know. Why don't they, I wonder?" Suzaku said. "Well, considering Britannia's standings, and the fact the Autobots are more advanced than probably anything else on Earth, I think they're more likely to be dissected and torn apart. Plus, didn't they also get into a fight with the purebloods a while back?" Rai asked. "Yes, exactly. I'm not sure Britannia would be too happy if being stronger and more competent than them would try to help them out. Pride is the Empire's greatest sin, trust me, I know," Lelouch added. "Look, I'm not an idiot, I know that the Empire is far from perfect right now. But they could evoke change from within the system," Suzaku argued. "You sure about that?" Rai asked. "I might have amnesia, but I'm not stupid. You heard what that old bastard said during the pledge a while back. He pretty much mocked every other country in the world saying, 'Britannia is the best,' and that was supposed to be at his son's funeral, whom he only mentioned once as just a stepping stone toward progress, by the way. You really think someone like that is willing to give anyone who isn't Britannia a chance to change his empire's ways? Lelouch did his best to hide a smile. Rai was right on point there. You don't know that, Rai. Do you even know the Emperor? Suzaku questioned. I do, Lelouch stated. Considering he's my biological father, so I know for a fact that he'd rather make an example of the Autobots than accept any help they'd be willing to offer. And yet it doesn't appear that the Autobots are even giving Britannia a chance. Suzaku argued back. If they don't, then everything they do is just self-righteous posturing. Self-righteous? Lelouch questioned. And what constitutes as evil, in their eyes? What standards are they using? Suzaku questioned. It's nothing but self-satisfying gratification. Oh, so are you saying it was wrong of them to rescue Millie, Shirley, Nina, myself, and all those other hostages? They should have just sat back and did nothing when they had the power to save all those people. Rai questioned. No, that's not what I'm saying. Suzaku replied. They had good intentions there, I will grant them that. But why didn't they help the military stationed there? Don't know. Lelouch shrugged. But what about those other metal titans they were fighting? Zero, and that large Autobot, did mention something called Decepticons, them being the true masters of Britannia, or that's what they said at least. Rai recalled. You think they were those Decepticons? What do you think, Suzaku? You're with the Britannian military, any other giant robots that we should know about? Lelouch spared him a glance. Suzaku instantly thought of Dreadwing. That particular Decepticon he could say that he could trust as he worked alongside him to disarm the purebloods and rogue Decepticon seekers, as well as the JLF during the Hotel Jackanegg. However, those same seekers, particularly their commander, Starscream was his name. They just had this aura that didn't seem very trusting. Then of course, there was the Decepticon leader, Megatron. For some reason, every time he even thought of that name, he got tense, like just thinking of him made his skin crawl. However, before Suzaku could collect his thoughts, or even give an answer, the door opened as Shirley walked into the room. Oh, it's just you guys. Hey Shirley. Rai waved. Suzaku stood up with a smile. Anyway, I guess I gotta go back to the base pretty soon. See you later Shirley. He waved before walking out. He really didn't answer. Lelouch said once he was gone. Answer what? Shirley asked. Shirley, what do you think? About the Autobots and the Black Knights and what they're doing? Rai asked. She was a bit surprised before a smile formed on her face. I think they're pretty great. Lelouch looked a bit surprised as she continued. I mean, aside from the fact the Autobots themselves are pretty extraordinary, and the fact they saved all our lives, what they're doing right now, all those criminals they're catching, it's almost like they're superheroes. Lelouch smiled a bit as Rai had a large grin on his own face. Yes, you're right, they are heroes. Well, I'm just glad that they got you guys back, that's all I can say. Lelouch said, causing Shirley to smile and blush slightly. Refrain. Colin asked as she sat inside Cliffjumper, the two having received a communication from Optimus as they were near a small park area in the settlement. Yes, it appears to be a psychotropic drug in which the recipient re-experiences pleasant moments from their lives. Optimus told them. Reports show it is highly addictive, with a growing supply in Japan. Well, can't say I blame people. Cliffjumper said. I can also think of a few bots who'd want the same kind of thing too. Colin grimaced a bit as she felt the same sort of way. Who doesn't long for the days before Britannia's occupation? This drug is specifically targeted toward the Japanese, and we believe we may have found the dealer's main base of operations, as well as the main supply route into the country. Optimus began to relay instructions. Colin, Cliffjumper, you will meet with Zero, Bumblebee, Ogie, and RC later tonight to hit the base. I will lead the rest of the Autobots to destroy the supply route. You got it, boss, Cliffjumper said. Yeah, see ya tonight. Colin nodded as the communications cut off. She got out of Cliffjumper to stretch her legs a bit. Come on 11, say something. She turned to see a hot dog vendor, a Japanese youth, getting kicked around by 5 Britannian punks. You are sorry, aren't you? Bowing your head is what you 11s do best, right? Colin clenched her fists. The disguised cliffjumper moved his body slightly as if to silently tell Colin not to get involved. He hated seeing this too, but she could get into trouble if she acted out. But she didn't seem to mind, as she was about to walk forward and beat the crap out of them, that is until a familiar hand held her shoulder firmly. Lelouch. No, there are 5 of them. Lelouch said as he spared Cliffjumper a small glance that not even Colin noticed. You wouldn't stand a chance at all. So you think I should just ignore this? Colin questioned. However, before Lelouch could respond, he and Colin looked in surprise to see Rye already walking toward the scene, and before either of them could say anything, he spoke to the punks. Knock it off. They turned their attention to Rye. You don't like his food, then go somewhere else. Hey, why don't you mind your own business, kid? Hey, look at his uniform, the guy's a student. What, you feeling sorry for this 11 school boy? The hell you even doing out here, kid? Oh see, I'm doing research for a book I'm writing. Rye told them. A book so what's it about? How much 11s suck? All the punks laughed, but Rye wasn't amused. No, it's about the link between being a Britannian and brain damage. The punks lost their smug grins as Rye continued. It's a really good book, all your friends would love it. You know, it's got mazes in it, little coloring areas, pop-up pictures, it's a lot of fun. Colin stifled a chuckle as even Lelouch smirked. Cliffjumper was very tempted to laugh, but kept his cool. Burn. However, the punks were not amused as one grabbed Rye by the collar. What the hell did you just say? What, you want me to spell it out for you? Rye asked, not being intimidated in the least. Maybe this guy deserves a bigger beating than this damn 11. Leave him alone. Colin walked forward, along with Lelouch. 5-on-1, seriously. Who are you guys, his friends? Yeah, we are. Lelouch said casually as he activated his Geass. But maybe you should just go home. The sigil flew in each of their eyes as red rings formed in all of them. You know what? Yeah, let's get out of here. Yeah, I'm bored too. Let's go home. Rye was put down as they all walked away. Thanks guys. Rye told Colin and Lelouch. Sure, you okay? Colin asked. I'm fine. Rye then walked to the beaten hot dog man as he kneeled down with him along with Colin. Are you alright? Yeah, he grunted a bit until he saw Ray's uniform. A Britannian student. What can I get for you? No, nothing, I'm not hungry. Rye said as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a $100 bill. Here, take this. Buy yourself something nice. The hot dog man looked in honest surprise. A Britannian student just gave him $100. Before he could even ask, Rye had already walked away with Lelouch and Colin. Where'd you even get $100 anyway? Colin asked Rye as all 3 sat on a bench. It's a bit leftover from Lelouch's gambling money. Rye answered. You know, that was really cool what you did back there. She said with a smile. It just sucks so much how people like him are stuck like that. It really does, doesn't it? Lelouch began. Even when 11s become honorary Britannians, they can only manage to get minimum wage jobs. You're not even allowed to attend the same school or even eat in the same restaurants, not unless somebody pulls certain strings. I imagine that's how Suzaku got in. And it's not just here, all other areas in Britannia work the same way too. Colin frowned, as did Rye. So basically, you're either a Britannian by blood, or you're just garbage. That's the world they're trying to create. Pretty much. Lelouch confirmed. Colin noticed his tone of voice. From the sound of it, it seemed like Lelouch also hated the current system, which surprised her a bit. It was rare to find a Britannian citizen who dislikes his own empire. This world, it feels like it's just lost its colors, hasn't it? Rye asked. It's completely miserable. Who'd want to create a world like that? Well, it's not like there's anything we can do about it. Lelouch said. We're just students. Maybe they were, but Colin wasn't. She clenched her fists as she stood up. I'll see you guys later. Yeah, see ya. Rye waved as she walked towards Cliffjumper. Lelouch eyed the disguised red Autobot who gave a slight nod with his right mirror before driving off. Cliffjumper drove out of an active portal into the Ark's groundbridge station as Colin stepped out and the talkative Autobot transformed. Showing up a bit early, don't you think? You know the mission isn't supposed to be for a few hours. Cliff said. I just can't stand being the city right now. Colin said as she walked into the hallway with the red Autobot following her. You sure it's okay to be out for so long? Wouldn't hurt to give your mom a call. That noble bitch couldn't care less what I do. Colin scowled as she continued to walk. No, I meant your actual mom, Cliff said, causing the red-haired girl to turn around and fix him a glare. It's not your damn business, she exclaimed. You wanna play guardian or whatever at my house, fine. But stay out of my business. You're not my dad, and you don't know a damn thing about my family, so don't talk like you do. Cliffjumper looked towards the girl with a sympathetic expression. Colin, I know it's rough. I really do. She was mildly confused before looking away. I don't know what you're talking about. She turned around to walk away. Naoto. Colin stopped in her tracks once she heard that name. Your brother, the one who started your group. He wanted to help people, and he ended up getting killed for it. She kept her back to him as her fists closed tightly. How do you know about that? I heard from Ogi. Cliffjumper began. Look, I know I talk a lot, but just please listen. Every single one of us knows what you're going through. All the other bots and I lost close friends, brothers and sisters, maybe not by blood, but by battle. We fought together, we bled energon together. Now they're all gone, even Bumblebee lost his voice, and I know how much it feels like you lose a piece of yourself too. But closing yourself off from feeling, and from others around you, won't help anyone, especially you. Colin said nothing and kept her back turned so Cliffjumper couldn't see the pained look on her face before she walked away in silence. Cliff gave a small sigh once she disappeared from his line of sight. How much of that did you hear? RC walked down from another turn and joined her partner. I heard enough. She's a lot like you know. Like how you used to be before we met up with Optimus. Cliffjumper said. I know. RC nodded. She didn't have to know Colin personally to know that when looking at her, it was like looking into a mirror. They were both fierce warriors who fought with a fierce and fiery determination on the battlefield, but deep inside, they had been broken as they lost someone close, watching helplessly as they were executed before their eyes. Colin lost her brother, and RC lost her partner. Tailgate. Miss Kazuki opened her drawer again, only to have a shocked and desperate facial expression at the sight of all her vials being empty. Meanwhile, Jeremiah and Valletta, both formerly well-respected soldiers of the Purebloods, now disgraces among the Britannian army, sat in a bar with a wine glass at Valletta's place, and the third drink Jeremiah was currently having. So about this orange thing? Valletta asked, causing Jeremiah to grimace. Sorry to bring it up. Is this whole thing true though? That you can't remember anything after the Autobots showed up? I don't expect you to believe me. No, it's just that, during the whole Shinjuku incident, I suffered some sort of memory lapse, also. That caught Jeremiah's attention. You did. By the time I regained my senses, my Sutherland had been stolen. Valletta explained. But right before that entire gap in my memory, I remember running into some high school kid. He had a car with him, and I think it might have also been one of those Autobots. You think it was that student? That maybe he's in league with the Autobots somehow. Maybe even Zero? Jeremiah asked. I can't remember his face, but there may still be a way to get to the bottom of this. The Ark. A portal opened up on the Groundbridge station as Optimus, Bulkhead, and Ironhide got ready. This will be a simultaneous attack. Optimus relayed to the rest of the Autobots and the Black Knights, including Zero. Ironhide, Bulkhead, and myself will attack the supply route, the rest of you will hit the base. Both targets shouldn't provide much trouble, there will hardly be any nightmares. Ratchet also instructed, but don't expect it to be easy. Of course, be careful out there. Zero said as Optimus nodded before transforming along with Ironhide and Bulkhead before the trio drove into the ground bridge, which deactivated soon after. I have the coordinates of the base itself locked on. Activating ground bridge now. Fix-It said on his station as a second portal opened up. Bumblebee transformed along with Cliffjumper, and RC as Zero turned to address the Black Knights, one of which was Colin sitting in an open cockpit in her Glasgow. Remember, we're keeping causalities to a minimum. Zero reminded. Yeah, whatever. Tamaki waved. Zero, sorry for asking, but why? Ogi asked out of curiosity. I mean, the police aren't probably going to be so easy on these guys if we turn them in. That's not what's important, Zero explained. The more we do things like this, the more people will rally behind us. They need something to believe in, and we're going to give that to them. So this whole thing is just for us to gain support? Inoue asked. We're going to need that support for when we take the fight to the cons and Britannia. RC commented. That, and it's also the morally right thing to do. Cliffjumper added. Colin looked down and spoke in a subtle tone. Are we in the right though? I don't know anymore. Colin. Obi looked to her in concern. Is there anything else we need to address? Zero asked, to which he received no response in confirmation. Good, then we're moving out. He entered Bumblebee's driver's seat followed by Ogi, Tamaki, and Minami. Sugiyama and Yoshida entered Cliffjumper along with 2 other Black Knights from the Yamato Alliance as Inoue mounted RC. Colin started up her Glasgow as all 4 vehicles drove into the groundbridge portal. Boxes of refrain were being loaded and unloaded by several drug dealers within the compound. They had large amounts of the stuff all boxed and ready. Is the shipment for Nagoya ready? I don't know, we've lost contact with the shipment just a few minutes ago. Before anyone could dwell on it further, the steel door was quickly broken down as Bumblebee's vehicle mode came in first, followed by RC and Cliffjumper, who transformed immediately just as the armed Black Knights quickly got out. Sorry, but you guys are done here, Cliffjumper said with a cocky tone as the Black Knights fired warning shots at the drug dealers, who returned fire with their own machine guns. Bumblebee and Cliffjumper crouched a bit to cover the Black Knights as the bullets bounced right off them, allowing RC to return fire with more warning shots with her energon blasters just as Colin's Glasgow rolled in to shoot as well. A nightmare and the freaking Autobots. I didn't sign up for this. Several of the drug dealers panicked and attempted to run further into the compound while the rest dropped their weapons and surrendered. Knights, take care of them. Zero pointed to the surrendered dealers for the Black Knights to handle. Bumblebee, Cliffjumper, secure the exits. RC, Q1, head to the back. Got it. Yes sir. As the 2 larger Autobots ran towards the east and west sides, RC ran forward along with Colin's Glasgow in pursuit of several retreating dealers. They spotted a gate closing, which RC was able to halt as she fired energon blasts to reduce the gate to rubble, letting Colin enter. However, both she and RC couldn't believe what they were seeing. What the heck? RC questioned in shock. There were several people, all Japanese, and every single one of them appeared to be in a hallucinatory state. Each one of them had taken refrain. So, this is what refrain does to people. RC commented in disgust. She heard from Lelouch how it was developed by Britannia to keep the number populace in a state of bliss and make it easy to suppress them. Another reason she hated the Empire as much as she hated the Decepticons. Colin looked around and even spotted the same hot dog person from earlier. I'm studying abroad. I can't believe I got in. Colin's own heart ached, not just for these people but for what they lost. Each one of them was revisiting moments in their lives where they were happy and had promising futures ahead of them. But Britannia had taken all that away from them and pushed them towards this sort of life. It was so unbearable. When you add them all up, they eventually break you. Millie's words rang through her head. That's right, which is why I'm here. Careful, it's dangerous to run like that. That voice took Colin by surprise as she looked to see a familiar woman in the same state as everyone else. Mother. RC also looked in surprise as Colin said that out loud. That's her mother. She remembered what Cliffjumper told her about what he learned when at the Statfeld residence, how Colin's mother was a maid and frequently abused, both physically and emotionally, by Colin's stepmother and the other maids in the household. So she was on refrain as well, it would seem. Ms. Kuzuki tripped and Colin instinctively caught her in her Glasgow's hands. Really Naoto, please. I need you to keep an eye on your little sister. RC had a sympathetic expression, but Colin's was one of frustration. My God, how weak of a woman are you? First you give in to Britannia, then a man, and now this. My brother is gone forever. Let him go. Look out. RC pushed Colin's Glasgow out of the way to avoid some shots fired at her, courtesy of a Britannian police nightmare. The night police. He opened fire, forcing Colin to retreat as RC returned fire with her energon blaster, though one shot was able to take out the night police's arm. The nightmare maneuvered around a stock shelf for cover and proceeded after Colin just as Zero, Cliffjumper, Bumblebee, and the rest of the Black Knights came in. A police unit? Cliff questioned. They're in on this. But we didn't hear from Fixit that there'd be any cops involved. Ogie stated. Zero looked in disgust. Corrupted filth. He quickly got back to the situation. RC, go after Q1. Everyone else, protect these people. Everyone nodded as most of them helped all the people get out of the way as RC transformed and drove after the night police still shooting at Colin. Her Glasgow turned as she shot fire with her Nightmare's rifle, while circling around the night police who did the same, but his unit's rifle was able to shoot off the Glasgow's arm, forcing Colin to retreat while still holding her mother in her other Nightmare's arm. There was no way she could fight while still protecting her mother. You're in the way. She was ready to drop her on the ground, which would have probably killed her at the speed she was going, but she couldn't find it in herself to do it. Damn it. I don't need you. I don't want you. Colin. RC drove around a corner and shot towards her. I'll take her. She drove up at high speeds and transformed while simultaneously leaping into the air just as Colin lifted her Glasgow's remaining arm. While flipping over the Nightmare, RC was able to grab Ms. Kuzuki and land on the ground just behind the night police unit. RC leapt around the corner to keep Ms. Kuzuki safe as she held her in her hands. Colin, Naoto. The Glasgow turned around and opened fire, but the night police had already shot the Glasgow's leg and knocked it down onto the ground. Scrap. RC cursed. She was about to put Ms. Kuzuki down behind some cover before she spoke, reaching out in the direction of Colin's Nightmare, almost sensing that her daughter was right there, and giving a warm and loving smile. I'm here for you. Her voice caught both RC and Colin by surprise. I'm here for you, Colin. I'm here, as I always have been. Colin's eyes were almost completely circular. That's why you stayed in his house. You stayed there for me. You fool. Or maybe, I'm the fool. The night police unit had pulled out a knife and was ready to impale the Glasgow, but it was quickly shot by multiple energon blasts from behind, courtesy of Bumblebee and Cliffjumper. Within seconds, the entire Nightmare was reduced to a flaming, smoldering mess, including the pilot inside. Once it was all done, RC set Ms. Kuzuki down just as Colin got out of her Glasgow and immediately ran to her mother, who was still in her hallucinatory state and on her knees. I'm so happy for you, you can finally become a Britannian now, Colin. Nobody will ever be able to hurt you now, darling. And you're free to travel and use the phone anytime you want. Colin's eyes welled up as she embraced her hallucinatory mother and cried her eyes out, bawling into her shoulder. Yet, while still hallucinating from refrain, her mother was still able to embrace her crying daughter and stroke her back. RC kneeled down. Though she said nothing, she felt both happy and sad for Colin right now. She simply just let the younger girl have her moment. Colin, Ogie and the others were about to run towards her. Let them be. Zero told them. That's her mother right there, they just need a moment. How's the situation? Cliffjumper and Bumblebee joined them. We got all drug dealers stuck in a big loading truck, and all the people are safe right now. The red Autobot answered. Good. We'll take the people back to the Ark and let the police handle the rest. Zero instructed. Fix-It already sent an anonymous tip and we've gathered the evidence. These guys are going away for a long time. Bumblebee informed. Zero looked towards Colin still crying and embracing her mother. Her mother, he almost instantly thought of his own mother before a sympathetic expression formed on Lelouch's face. Not long after that, all the people who were hallucinating had been transported back to the Ark, toward a newly constructed infirmary where all the people laid on dozens of beds. All of them appeared unresponsive, but alive, including Ms. Kuzuki whom Colin was sitting next to. Fix-It was right next to her. Ratchet and I were able to devise a serum that completely flushes refrain out of the human system. They'll be in a comatose state for 20 hours or so. They'll all rest here before we get them to a hospital. After that, they'll wake up with no recollection of what occurred in that warehouse, or being brought here to the Ark. Colin nodded. Can I, please have a moment alone? Of course. Fix-It understood as he left, leaving Colin alone with her unresponsive mother. Mother, Colin began as her voice began to choke up. I'm sorry, I'm so very sorry. Tears flowed down her face. Earlier, you asked me if I made any friends. Well, I did. Really good friends who are helping me right now. We're working to change things. I promise, we'll make the world a better place before you know it. However, she felt her hand being gripped both gently and tenderly, by her mother. Hang in there. She spoke, almost as if she were in a dream. Hang in there, Colin, my little girl. Don't you worry, Colin cried with a smile. I will, I promise you. Colin had left the infirmary, but was surprised to see a certain masked figure waiting outside for her. Zero. That was your mother, wasn't it? She was a bit surprised, but it faded. Yes. However, she didn't expect for Zero to hand her a set of keys. What's this? Keys to your new apartment in the settlement. Zero answered, catching Colin completely by surprise. It's a fairly nice place. I've also wired some extra cash into your account, and don't worry about rent, it's all taken care of. Once your mother has recovered, we'll drop both of you off there. Colin didn't know what to say. I don't, why would? Cliffjumper told me about what your home life was like. Zero explained. I also heard about your brother too, I'm sorry. When I was a child, I lost my mother at Britannia's hands. Colin looked in honest shock as he continued. It's part of the reason why I'm fighting today. Part of the reason, Colin questioned. The rest is to create a better world. I know that sounds rather idealistic, but the world could probably use some of that right now. That's all. Truth is, Lelouch was already planning on this a couple of days ago once he heard from Cliffjumper what it was like for Colin. He softened up a bit when he heard about Naoto as well, thinking about the loss of his own mother. So he was able to use his Geass on the landlord to make Colin stay there completely free. It honestly surprised him what he did after he'd done it. He'd never thought he'd do anything so generous before he donned his guise as Zero. Guess being around the Autobots changed him a bit. Right as Zero turned around and began to walk away, he felt a wrapping embrace from behind. It was Colin as she shed more tears while burying her face into his cape in the back. Thank you so much. Lelouch said nothing as he let Colin get it out. They stood there alone for a few minutes before she finally let go. Right now, she didn't care if he had a mask, he did all this for her, and even opened up a bit about why he was fighting. From now on, he had her complete and unquestioning trust. It was almost midnight when Lelouch entered the living room in the clubhouse, which was almost pitch black. Though he still had his Zero outfit on, he thought it would be okay since it was so late at night. Sayoko had gone home, while Nunnally and Rai were both probably still asleep by now. He took off his mask to rub his face and hair a bit before he turned around and looked in honest surprise to see Rai, in his pajamas, with a coffee cup filled with milk in his hands as Rai's jaw dropped before he let go of the cup which shattered on the ground. What was that? Nunnally's voice called from her room. Nothing. Lelouch called out to her before turning towards Rai. What are you doing? He questioned in a subtle whisper. You're Zero. Lelouch, you're really Zero. Lelouch. Nunnally called again. Don't say a word. Lelouch whispered while fixing Rai a glare before running to Nunnally's room. She was already partly up when he quickly came toward her. Lelouch, I heard a crash. It's fine. He quickly said as he calmly and gently wrapped both his hands around hers, having taken his gloves off. Rai was getting something to drink but he dropped the glass by accident. Are you two okay? Nunnally asked. Yeah, we're fine. Don't worry, I'll clean it up. Lelouch told her. Though he didn't really lie, he did leave out a few details. Sorry to wake you. Go back to sleep. Okay. Nunnally smiled as she lay back down. Lelouch sighed before walking out and closing her door, only to turn and fix a glare towards Rai again. She doesn't know. Rai whispered. Of course she doesn't. Lelouch whispered back as he pushed Rai away from Nunnally's room so she couldn't hear. What are you even doing up this late anyway? Well, you just kinda said I was getting a drink and you weren't wrong, but Rai held his head as it looked like he was almost hyperventilating as he sat down on a chair to wrap his mind around all this. Damn, you're Zero, you're really Zero, but now that I think about it, it makes sense. I mean, what your dad did to you, what happened to Nunnally, I can't believe. His eyes suddenly widened. Wait, your car, it's one of the Autobots, isn't it? Lelouch was honestly surprised just how fast Rai could connect the dots. It has yellow and black stripes, just like that one Autobot from the hotel jacking. I can't believe I didn't figure it out sooner. Why didn't anyone else figure it out? Probably because he can change his outward appearance slightly to look different. Lelouch said. Either that or the Britannian military is just completely incompetent. They both looked to CCC enter the room, catching them by surprise. CC. Don't look so shocked, Lelouch. She said. We're all living under the same roof, so it was only a matter of time till he saw me, or figured you out. I'm still a bit surprised it took him so long. Who's this? Rai asked. It's complicated, Lelouch said. Then explain it to him. You might as well since he's seen you, figured out Bumblebee's right outside, and you used your Geass on him before so it won't work on him again. Geass? Rai asked once more. Lelouch sighed. Alright, sit down, I'll tell you everything. But you have to promise you won't tell anyone else. I won't say a word, who'd believe me anyway? Rai said. Actually, this is pretty good. Because I've wanted to talk to you, well to Zero, for some time. Really? About what? Lelouch questioned. Well, we both know how horrible Britannia is right now. But Zero's taking a stand, you're taking a stand, fighting for what's right. And I want to be a part of that. I want to join you, I want to join the Autobots and fight for freedom and justice. What Rai said next, Lelouch could not have anticipated, even CC would be slightly stunned as Rai smiled and spoke 7 simple words. I want to be a Black Knight. And this is the end of part 5 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.